Welcome to Minor League Cricket Draft Day live from Church Street Park in Morrisville, North Carolina. I'm Nate Hayes from Emerging Cricket, and with me is Abhiram Patel and Dane Pete. We're going to have some minor league stars like Dane and Obis Pinar joining us, so stick around and we'll be talking about the draft this year, how it's going, and where the players are going this year. So all of this for the 2022 Toyota Minor League Cricket Championship presented by Sunoco. Aman, Dane, last season was a blast. We're sitting at the site of last year's minor league cricket final, the site of this year's minor league cricket final, and home of the Morrisville team. And we had a lot of great memories here last year, and we're looking forward to a whole bunch more this year. What do you think, Aman?
Yeah, it should be absolutely fantastic. Might have not had the great weather that we were looking for, but last year was absolutely fantastic, and I'm ready for another great minor league in 2022.
And, in North Carolina here, we're welcoming Dane Pete, who's just moved to the area recently this past off season. Dane, how do you like it down here?
Yeah, I love it. My family loves it. I just had a baby boy 3 months ago. In the new year, we've been blessed with a baby boy, so we love it. It's a family vibe. There's no 495 that connects all the DMV together, so there's no traffic really. Everything's 10 minutes away, so I'm definitely loving it out here. And this is the home ground now, so yeah, looking forward to the minor league in 2022.
Yeah, tell me about that 495. I grew up in that area, so I'm well familiar with it. So you've taken about the same path that I have, except for I didn't start off in South Africa.
Yeah, I started out in South Africa. I've actually just become a permanent resident, so life's looking good. So yeah, I'm scattered all over the world at the moment.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the team composition. First of all, I'd like to say apologies for the late start. We wanted to start a little bit sooner. We got some rain we weren't expecting, and we're sitting in wet chairs right now. We're leaning on a wet table right now, but we're going at it anyways. So let's talk about the team composition, because that's the best way to explain the draft rules and the significance of the pre-draft roster, is to talk about what player roles are in the makeup of a team. And heading into the draft, each team can present a roster of up to 12 players. Every team can have one wild card player. It can be anybody in the world. Last year we had Rovman Powell on the Stallions team, and he's currently kicking some butt in the IPL.
And making money.
And making money, right. So there you go. This is a great launch pad, isn't it?
Exactly.
So another one was Unmukt Chand, who went and played in the BBL this year. So yeah, there's some great players in this league. 2 marquee players. These can be any players who live in the USA who are working towards USA eligibility. And 3 preferred domestic players. These players have to be currently living in the community in which they play. 2 U21 players, that's self-explanatory. 1 U19 player. A lot of teams will have 2 guys that are U19, so that they definitely have one for the U21 slot, which is a great strategy. And this makes 9 of the 12 players that can be on the pre-draft roster. And each of these can be negotiated as long as they meet the qualifications for their slots. Now, additionally to these 9, we have 3 domestic players to fill out the 12, and they usually played for their respective team last season. They're usually retentions. Before we announce the draft results from the East and the final teams from the East, let's look at the pre-draft squads. We'll just go straight into talking about it, because the draft has happened in the East. So let's start talking about some of these teams, and we're going to start off with the New Jersey Somerset Cavaliers Cricket Club. And their wild card, some of these wild cards are announced, some of them aren't announced. Nobody has to announce their wild card until June 5th, or their marquees until June 5th, but a lot of teams have already solidified them. So for the New Jersey Somerset Cavaliers Cricket Club, we have a wild card of Syed Najaf Shah, who comes over, I believe, from the Central.
Yeah, from Dallas, Mustang Irvings. Yeah,
right.
Irving Mustangs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
We got Gudakesh Modi, and he's a new name altogether in the league. He's of Guyana, and he takes one of the marquee slots. We got Ali Imran as another marquee, priority domestic. Chandrapal Hamraj, he'll probably be on this team. Burham Saeed. Xavier Marshall as a priority domestic. He's a USA opening batter.
He did really well in last year's edition. Was in the running for the top run scorer up until the last couple of weekends. So
Absolutely.
he was really good, and to get him sorted is probably one of the better players in the country at the moment.
Absolutely. He was the 8th ranked player in all of minor league cricket last year. And when you get in the top 10, top 20, you're splitting hairs between the difference between the
Yeah.
5th place guy and the 8th place guy.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a difference. So then we have Pranav Rao, Yashwan Balaji, and Taha Warich as their U21 and U19 players. Taha comes over from the Empire State Titans. Pranav Rao and Yashwan Balaji come over from the Philadelphians.
Yep.
So there's some movement there in the youth, which is a little bit unusual, but not really in this division because everybody's kind of close together. Then you've got Abhishek Prabhu, Ahmed Labib, and Imrul Hashib, who was a very well-ranking domestic player last season. In his few limited overs, he was very effective. I think he had about 14 overs, and he saved 19 runs over the replacement player in that span of time, which is really great production in a short period of time. And then we have Salak Iqbal as domestic. So in the draft here, they also added some really impressive names. They added Damien Jacobs, Meet Shah, and Kulwinder Singh. Damien Jacobs, that's a really big addition for them. He was one of the top bowlers in the league last year, probably the top performing leg spin bowler. We've talked a lot about Damien Jacobs in the past. We saw him here perform out of his mind in the past, and he's a very good leg spin bowler. Dane, you know an awful lot about leggies, or you know an awful lot about spin bowlers. What are your thoughts about this Somerset Cavaliers Cricket Club team this year and what Damien might bring to the table for them?
Yeah, no, they look pretty strong. I know that Najaf Shah has moved from Dallas, and I know he's a good friend of his. That's the marquee too. They move together. They don't go without each other. So that's two additions that will do pretty well in Ali Pasha. His full name wasn't there. I think it's Ali Pasha, if I'm not mistaken. And then Damien Jacobs did really well. If you look through the Eastern Conference, though, there's a lot of selections that are based on the matting wickets and AstroTurf. I know, having played against the Somerset team, we played on Astro. So a lot of their team is really picked around that. It's interesting to see them go with a fast bowling option for the wild card compared to last year where they had Sherfane Rutherford and Kanal Lewis, which were batting options which really can be destructive on those type of surfaces. So they kind of bold going with the fast bowling options on that. But let's see how that turns out for them. But they looked pretty strong with Xavier Marshall in the squad. It really balances everything out. Damien Jacobs, former Jamaican first-class player, West Indies A player, did really well. But yeah, they look pretty set again to compete. The wheels did come off a little bit at the back end with players lost and chopping and changes and things like that.
Well, as you know, Dane, the East has a lot of competitiveness. It was a very difficult division last year. It was very close. You were well in the middle of all that. We had a big fight for the playoffs for most of the season. It was one of the toughest divisions. So let's move along to the New Jersey Stallions. We've got Akshay Amraj, who comes over from, I think he was with New England last year.
New England Eagles,
yeah. He's a wicketkeeper who has played for USA in the past. We got Paul Palmer from Jamaica, who's a brand new player to the league altogether. Manoj Acharya comes over from the Manhattan New Yorkers. Yeah. We know about him. We've seen him here. He performed quite well in that dramatic last over win against the Morrisville team last year.
Dramatic is the word for that. It came down to the very last ball, 11 needed from last over, and that was just, without his over, the Morrisville side would have been over the line. Yeah,
and he was always in those situations for them. He usually performed pretty well. Early in the season, performed quite well in the power play. We got Dominic Ricky, USA batsman. Dominic Ricky. We got Jasdeep Singh. He's the leader of this team. He's the captain of this team. He had a great season last year. Now this is going to be a tough year. They have Jasdeep and they have Dominic Ricky in the team. Both of those USA players. USA is going to be on tour 3 different times during the course of this season. Yep. So it's not as big of a deal this year to have a USA star on your team. Last year it was a huge deal. They only missed because of one on tour. But this year is going to be tough. It's going to be tough going for the Stallions without those 2 players. And then not only that, but you also have Sai Mukamala, the U19, who has given the USA selectors every reason to select him, and he might be in the USA team as well. And he's their opener. They stuck with him through the thick and thin last season, and he paid off for them at the end. Then you've also got Preet Shah, Rohan Aravind, I just mentioned Saiteji Mukamala, Sachin Mailavarapu, Singaporean international player, very good performing domestic player. I think he's a top 60 performer in the league. You've got Stephen Wigg, another domestic retainee.
Yeah, really good player. Yeah.
Really good player.
Yeah.
And then you have Raymond Rawat. And these three are domestic retentions.
Yeah. I think the biggest loss for the Stallions would be Justin Dill.
Right. Good point.
He's obviously did very, very well with a new ball with Jesse. And for me, that's probably one of the biggest losses with the two players that you've mentioned that will be away. But that was obviously a decision made by the owner of the New Jersey Stallions. So yeah, he's probably one of the biggest losses for them. But again, like you said, Stephen Wigg, Raymond, really good cricketers that did very, very well for them. Stephen Wigg was one of the top bowlers, left arm, really swings the ball nicely. So yeah, he was really good. He looked to penetrate in the power play, which is good. So he will have a lot of workload on his shoulders when Jesse Singh is gone. So interesting to see the changes made, but the names I've heard, there's been a lot of chopping and changes in the Eastern Conference compared to last year.
Totally.
Like you said, with the youth all the way around, there's been a lot of changes.
Yeah, and these are big changes too. These aren't just little things.
Yeah.
And in the draft here, we're seeing some huge names going in this draft, which is a little bit unusual. So that just goes to show you all the talent in the East.
Yeah.
Their wild card has not been named yet. They don't have to name that till June 5. It will be really interesting to see who they name as a wild card.
Yeah.
As you know, Dane, the wild card isn't always a static position. You have guys coming and going because teams tend to go after big name guys, especially in the East, for that spot. And Roverman Powell, one of those examples.
Yeah.
So
all the tech owners,
Yeah.
the guys that work in tech, all the guys that have millions of dollars, all in the East. So
Right.
they throw money at the wild card players.
Right.
So yeah, that, like you say, it's an important position, but it could be changed during the competition, which is also a determining factor whether you want a big name player at the start or the back end of the competition if you're in the playoff running.
Right, and they filled out their roster, their 16, well, minus the wild card, in the draft with Hiran Patel, Karen Patel, Sadiq Henry, and Daron Davis. So they've got their team fleshed out pretty much, except for that wild card spot. But they're like we talked about, they're going to be missing some big name players when USA goes on tour this year. It's going to be a little bit trickier for the Stallions to keep their stride. Moving along to the Manhattan Yorkers, we have a marquee named Rajdeep Darbar. Their domestics are Smit Patel, excellent batter, very fast hands on that fella. We've got Ganjanan Singh, USA batter, Noman Iftikhar, Dinesh Patel, Yasser Mohammed, Surya Tharamola. Those three make up their youth players. Their domestic retained players are Raj Babsar, Deveshwari Prasad, and Raj Patel. And in the draft, they picked up Sean Findlay, Kevin Shah, Advaith Jagannath, and Raghavendra Tirunaha.
Say that again.
That's a tough one.
Say that again. I'm waiting. Say it again.
I'm sorry, Raghavendra. I'm sorry, Raghavendra. I'm doing my best.
Have a go.
Rajvinder Tirunanhan.
Well,
You just dropped that American accent quickly.
well, let me tell you, I think this guy's going to be a household name by the end of the season, just to prove a point to us.
All alphabets there.
Yeah. But in the meantime, the Manhattan Yorkers look very different. Like I mentioned before, they lost Manoj Acharya, who was a big player for them last year. But they have Smit Patel, who they missed out on a lot last season in the CPL. Smit, man, he's a very impressive guy. Really fun person, really nice guy. Great, entertaining guy to be around, to be honest. Everybody seems to like Smit Patel. Ganjanan Singh, the Cricket for Americans podcast fellas, one of their favorite players, this guy Jadon Singh, because of that performance he put up in Ireland. Excellent player. So this team, you know, what do you think? I think Sean Finlay was a great addition there in the draft for them.
Yeah, it definitely was, right? You're talking about a guy who's played in the West Indies, and I think for a team that loses Manu Jachadia, to bring in a guy like Sean Finlay just rounds that team out, I think is a big addition for them.
Yeah. Any names stand out on that team for you, Dane?
Smith Patel's my favorite. Actually, sending well wishes to him. He was in a car accident like a week ago, a couple of days ago. But yeah, really good player. He's dynamic. He's a wicketkeeper too, which solves a lot of problems. If your wicketkeeper can open the batsman, it gives you a couple of slots in the middle order to provide some firepower. But yeah, like you say, Sean Finlay is an addition. He played, I think, 1 or 2 ODIs for the West Indies too. He brings a lot of experience to them. He's a left-hander too. Lots of power, so they look kind of balanced too. Again, playing on a type of surface that was kind of slow out in Jersey, which was I remember playing there. I think we got 150 and they chased it down with an over to spare or something like that, or in the last over. I don't remember when I was played out for the DC Hawks. So yeah, it's a well balanced team. Really good. A couple of good additions to it.
Excellent, yeah. And we'll see what they can do with Smith if Smith's on the team a little longer this season with an earlier start.
Yeah.
Less CPL competition.
Yeah, definitely.
For his time.
Definitely.
So we'll see how he does. I actually had the privilege of spending some time with him at the John Boy Media Warehouse, where we got to see him bat against some blitz ball, which is like an indoor kind of baseball.
Yes.
Well, it's not necessarily indoor, but it's a recreational, fun kind of baseball with a ball that moves like crazy. And he was hitting everything all over the place. He was everybody's favorite guy. So let's talk now about the Empire State Titans. And they've added Monarch Patel as a marquee. Monarch is a captain for the USA men's team. And they added Adobati from the DC area as well.
Great addition.
Great addition.
Great addition.
Yeah,
Great
you
addition.
played with him last year.
Yeah. He was exceptionally good, Adil Bhatti. He did dislocate his finger, unfortunately, but at the end of the day, he brings a lot of experience. Had a couple of tours with the US a couple of years ago. He's a good all-rounder. Can bowl with a new ball. Can bowl with a at the death too, and provides a lot of power. He can bat anywhere in the batting line. It's a big loss for the DC Hawks, unfortunately. But yeah, such is life, and he's moved on. Again, they were the semi-finalists of last year. They did extremely well. But yeah, lots of changes in the Empire State team, which is really interesting. There's a couple of names that I was expecting to see that's not quite there yet. So let's see if the wild cards and the marquees sort of beefing up. But having the national captain on your team as a marquee player,
absolutely,
it's kind of strange having him put in the marquee position, knowing that he's only going to be available for 4 weekends maybe.
True.
So that for me was a big surprise. But that's their decision at the end of the day, where they could have got someone in to carry the load while he's away.
Right. They also have Gauranshu Sharma, Tapash Baisya, Usman Ashraf comes in to the team. He's a good player. He's played all over the place. He's a very good player. They have Aditya Venkatesh, Chaitanya Parwal, and Vidyut Rajagopal.
Yeah.
Rajagopal. Those are their 3 youth players. Jalad Dua returns to the team. We all love Jalad Dua. He can really rake. Good keep for them. And in the draft, they grabbed up Saban Patel, Kwame Patton Jr., Tauhidul Islam, Vivek Ravichandran, Sumit Kumar, and Chintan Patel. And we're hearing some drums over there.
I think we got fans of all these players that you're naming. I think they're starting to love it out there.
Drums at Church Street Park is not unusual. That's for sure. Drums and airplanes. So the Titans look at a completely different team this year. Let's see who they get with their wild card. They landed some good ones last year.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're missing Barnwell. They're missing Trayvon this year. Those were big players. Damien Jacobs is not in the team.
Correct.
Carmichael's out of the team.
Yeah.
Bhaskar Yadram not there either.
Bhaskar Yadram's not there, yeah.
Exactly. Bhaskar Yadram's not in the team. They're missing all the
We're looking at the tennis courts where he hit that big 6 last year here at Church Street Park.
Evan Stewart as well is not in there.
Yeah,
I don't see his
name. A lot of guys missing, so that's
kind of strange again.
Strappa J is missing. Yeah, so they're missing some. Yeah, they're missing a lot of guys.
Yeah.
So moving along to the Philadelphians. Now this is an exciting team. I've been looking forward to talking about this team. last year they were a very exciting team, Dane.
You're obviously supporting the Philadelphians.
I'm not.
You're looking very excited here.
I just they were in a lot of really close games last year.
Yeah.
And so you know you want to watch them play because of that. But let's see how much they've changed. They've got Liam Plunkett, as we know, as a marquee player, not listed there. They don't have to list their marquees until June 5th, as we've mentioned a few times. So Liam Plunkett bringing tons of experience, excellent guy. You know, anybody who's met him raves about him. He's an excellent dude. Milind Kumar, really good. He's an Indian guy. He, played first class in India. Excellent player of spin, I think, with the bat. They've got Kareem Agor that they retain. He was their #1 overall pick last season in this division's draft. He was the very first player.
Didn't Kareem Agor play?
Yeah,
he played for Somerset. Yeah.
Oh,
He's moved.
yes.
Yeah, he's
in
moved.
the exhibition, he played for the
That's right.
Philadelphians.
That's right.
He played for Somerset.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call.
Shabash.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Shabash. Nice.
Okay, there you go. So we got Kareem Agor in the team now. Syed Abdullah. Oh, Syed can really rake. Tank, a.k.a. Tank Syed. If you're watching, congratulations on the baby this week. I know you've been. This is the second biggest, most exciting thing in your week after the baby, I'm sure. So, yeah, there you go. Derek Narayan, Yash Kangora, Varun Sai Manta, Anirudh Emmanuel. Those are their.
Anirudh Emmanuel moved from New Jersey Stallions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So
I
as
remember working with him in under 19 camp that we had.
Yeah, you know all the young guys.
Yeah. He's a good cricketer. As a unorthodox action. So yeah, he's a good addition to the Philadelphians.
Yeah.
I know Milind Kumar was after a couple of DC Hawks players.
Right. I bet.
He's living out in Virginia at the moment, but I know he was after a couple of DC Hawks players that would have definitely beefed up the team, but unfortunately he didn't quite get them. But yeah, they look a good team.
Right.
Well balanced, definitely well balanced.
Yeah, and then here we have. They also retained Chiran Shubatia, but their draft picks here. This is really interesting. They got Trenton Carmichael.
Yeah.
That's a really big pick for them. That's excellent. He was one of the top bowlers in the entire league. I mean, when I say that, I mean he was top 5 or 6 bowlers in the whole league last year for the Empire State Titans. Another one of the stars from that team last year that's gone on to play somewhere else. Genoa Drysdale, Syed Vikar, Surapal Islam, Hayat Khan, and Mario Rampersad comes over from the East Bay Blazers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
moves cross country basically.
Moving across.
Imagine
country.
that U-Haul drive all
And
the
he
way
was-
across the country.
and he was a pretty big player. He was a pretty regular player on that team. He was a well-established player on that team. He's a very good guy, really good cricketer. He's got a great reputation. So that takes us on to the DC Hawks, who the last two are the DC Hawks and the New England Eagles, who are both. They don't have to announce their teams until June 5th because they're out, or until a little bit later on, anyways, because they're outside of the draft zone. So they pick their teams based on players who are local to them. We have some DC Hawks here listed.
I see most of them are retained. Clement Franklin, the wicketkeeper, Ritwik Behera.
Yeah,
I know
Ishan
he was
Sharma.
in Ishan Sharma.
Yeah.
I know Ritwik and Rishesh were in talks with the Philadelphians, but Sunny Sahel retained.
Yeah, Sunny, yeah.
I know there's a young kid, Pranto Ahmed. He's a fast bowler. He's an exciting prospect for the team. And Junaid Nadir also, former Pakistani international, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And there's Waris Sijat Sidhu. I don't think he's obviously new to the DC Hawks, having played for them. And Arsh Arora, new players to the DC Hawks. I see Talal Ziaz also, and Aryan Batra, 17-year-old kid, fast bowler. He's an exciting prospect too, really good in the field. And Jaskaran Malhotra. He's moved over to the DC Hawks.
So Amin, Jaskaran, we got to watch him a lot here at Church Street Park last year. He obviously he was amazing.
Yep.
Won a lot of games for the Cardinals last year. He moves on to DC. Now, as we talked about several times, not going to be around a whole lot because he'll be with the USA team. I think he's pretty much a lock for that team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for the DC Hawks, you're trying to go and get some players, and you know you have the youngsters. And I think Jeskrin might bring a little bit of flavor to those youngsters, bring some of that experience that he has playing overseas and on different surfaces, different areas. And, you know, I think they have an opportunity here to use their youth really well. Dane talked about the exciting prospects that they have. So they can use him as a mentor when he's there, and Jeskrin, as he's there, can be a guy that can come in and really perform for him.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jay Ahant will have a lot of new names to learn. We've talked to him and with him in the past a lot. We love having him visit. Rivik Behera, Ishan Sharma. They got some good young players, guys.
Yeah, I'm just on the young players. I hope they get a full-on go this year.
Me too.
They were stop and start really, and just some consistency around their game so they can grow. You know, because this tournament is, yes, it's about winning, but also producing the next cricketers for the next generation. You know, the Behera brothers are real talents. Rashesh being a fast bowler and Ritwik being a very good batsman who's represented the US recently. So
against Ireland.
yeah, I hope he gets a full go in a position where he can flourish. That's all about the way that players sort of grow. You know, if you get some confidence in your game, you get put into pressure situations. You know, so
yeah.
hopefully those kind of guys get exposure and get a chance to play.
Right, and we don't really have any news on the New England team right yet, but that's coming down the pipe. So, guys, I'm going to throw a little curveball your way, Aman. We just talked about all the teams in the East. Where's the difference? Who's making the difference? What team is going to come through here?
Man, I think you'd have a lot of great teams out east, right? Another strong division, just like last year. The Philadelphians are intriguing, right? Because you added the guys like Liam Plunkett, and you have all these individuals in place, and they were just exciting. They were in a lot of close games. You felt if just one or two more of them went their way, would have been really big for them. Now, there is no Gordon back. He did not come back. They didn't pick him, so that's a big loss. But I think they're an interesting side to look for because they were so close in every single match they played. Now to bring in a guy like Liam Plunkett to bring up that opening attack, it'll be really interesting to see what they do this year.
They haven't named their wild card, of course.
Yeah.
Just riffing. Do you have a player in mind for them as a wild card, or do you have a role in mind for them as a wild card?
Well, I'd love to see him go get that another opening bowler alongside Liam Plunkett. I think that would be a real thing for them to have. But I think they could really go get anybody. I think they're in that kind of position where they have a lot of their pieces filled out, and they could just go and wherever you can get, you go and get them. The best player available, you go and get them.
Yeah, I kind of would like to see that too. See them get a good opening and closing bowler in the mix. Another one. Obviously, Liam Plunkett is still high class. He's still bowling, 140 plus, no doubt about it. And he's a strong dude, you know.
Yeah.
So let's see what they bring in. I wouldn't mind seeing a return of Jonathan Fu, to be honest, as the wild card there. Dane, how about you? I know you guys had a heartbreaking loss against them.
Yeah, that
at
was
his hands.
an interesting game. He was absolutely murdering. He was whacking the spinners all over the place. They played nicely. We got wickets at regular intervals, but there was just moments in the game where we let ourselves down. I think in that game we played a seamer too short, but it is what it is. He played really well. I suspect dollars are doing the talking. That's why they haven't named the wild card yet. So the negotiation process is probably ongoing. So yeah, I'm just like you guys said, they look probably the well balanced team on here on the list because the names are standing out. You know,
Sure.
No one expected the New Jersey Stallions to make a run. They made it to the final because the names weren't standing out. So
that's true.
It's always difficult to sort of call it in the East because of the nature of where we play. We play on Astro and the coconut mat, which definitely is a factor because you can chase down 230 on a small field with AstroTurf. You can really defend 120 if you're playing on a coconut mat because it might be slow. So it's always difficult to call it in the East, but it's really stacked. It's a really stacked conference. I just hope that at the end of the day, good cricket's played. And the names, again, are standing out in certain teams. But, again, even if you look at the New Jersey Somerset Cavaliers Cricket Club, they got stacked with names. But it's all dependent on the day, you know.
Yeah, I think myself looking at it, if I had to pick a team right now, which nobody ever likes to do, but that's the fun part though.
Yeah,
I gotta have to go with the Cavaliers, just the Somerset Cavaliers. Just they've got some good players. Obviously, Xavier Marshall not going to be around a ton. but when he is around, I think he's going to be a massive bonus to the team.
Yeah.
Adding Damien Jacobs is a really big addition for them. They can maybe, they were in a lot of slugfests last year. They were, and maybe this year they can take some more wickets in those middle overs.
Yeah.
And, make it tougher on some teams.
I'm picking the Marsville cricket team.
Haven't got there yet.
I'm not picking any team. I'm not picking any team in the East.
we gotta get there first. We gotta get to the South first. But that's all right. You're not gonna pick any team in the East. They're all gonna lose. All the teams in the East are gonna lose.
Okay, I'll pick a team just for the fun part of it. Not the Eagles.
Be careful what you say now.
It's difficult. Let me go with the Philadelphians. I like Liam Plunkett as a person. He's a good guy, good banter. So I'll go with the Philadelphians. I mean, they look balanced. They look balanced.
Pretty safe choices over here. That's I'm excited to see what the schedule holds for us. I'd love to see the Philadelphians here. I'd love to see the Somerset Cavaliers here in Morrisville this year.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens, because last year they didn't come here.
Yeah.
Those are two teams I'd absolutely love to have here. Not to say anything against any of the other teams, and the DC Hawks or the New England Eagles or anything like that. We did see the Manhattan Yorkers, the New Jersey Stallions, and the Empire State Titans here last year. Those teams look pretty different now today. The Stallions retaining a lot of the same players, looking a lot the same, but man, I think they're really going to miss Justin Dill. I think he's an underrated player.
Huge player. Huge loss for them.
It's just the fire he brings right on the field, whether it's with the ball or just in the field in general. He's just that fire that you bring that you can't write that down. There's no statute that's going to make up for it.
He's very consistent. He's a very consistent.
Interesting to let him go. He'll be playing for the St. Louis Americans. So
he performed like crazy at the Houston Challenge too.
Yeah, he did.
He was one of the best players.
Beautifully.
One of the best.
He's bowling sort of action, and it sort of suits that kind of pitch in Houston. Bowling nice and full and attacks the off stump, which was perfect. He's quite good with a new ball.
Right.
His hero is Mohammad Asif, so he showed similar sort of skill in Houston, to be fair.
Yeah, nice, great. Well, let's move into the South, and Aman, you're going to start us off. You're going to start us off with the South here. We're getting a little bit of we've got the Atlanta draft next. As we know, these drafts go in regions, not necessarily in the entire division going at the same time. But we'll go to the Southern Division and we'll look at the Atlanta team. So why don't you run us down on that, Aman?
Yeah, so with the Atlanta Fire, they're yet to name their wild card, but their marquees. Two guys returning in Corne Dry and Emilio Aponzo. Two very good players for them, both ranked within the top 15 in overall player performance. In their priority domestics, you have Zain Zayed, who they brought over from last year's Atlanta Buttonveers, Everoy Dyer, who is also coming over from the Atlanta Buttonveers, and they retain Stephen Taylor, who we know what he can do here, Nate, just unbelievable and electrifying batsman. We move along to the rest of that side. You talk about the under-19s. Viraj Vachel, who did not have a side last year, was with the Buttonveers for the exhibition. Rishi Pandey has yet to also play a game in minor league cricket, so that'll be another interesting one as an under-19. And then their final under-19 was Atinder Subramaniam, who was 75th in player performance and was a really good young talent that we saw last year. Nate and I talked about him a lot on the Emerging Cricket podcast, so that was it was really good to see him back with the Atlanta Fire. Aaron Jones retained. We know what kind of electrifying batsman Aaron Jones is.
Definitely.
No need to go into all of that, and I think pairing him with Zain Zayed is going to be really fun. Ridwan Palash was a very good, solid middle order bat for them last year, and Jay Patak, another domestic retention, and he's just a rotational middle order bat that they can have. And then you also look at the other men that they did pick up as their domestics: Danush Kavaripakam, Gavaskar Chaner, Nitil Reddy, and Salman Safi. So the team still looks very, very sharp, like it did last year, one of the stronger teams in the South. Those marquees to me they just really stick out.
Yeah, it's there's
That's
a lot of great players.
That's a solid explanation. That's brilliant. I was listening because to be honest, I don't know the South too much, so I think I'm going to get you into our team talks and just give us a whole breakdown of each player.
You got your scout right here.
Yeah, that's our scout.
You got to get him on get him in the team.
100%.
You got to get him in the setup. He's got to be the scout for this. Yeah. That's a great breakdown. That Atlanta Fire team. Whew. They didn't really take a step back, did they?
No, they did not take a step back.
The only question mark, obviously, what we've talked about a lot, emphasized a lot, is USA players are going to be missing a lot.
Yep.
So
I mean, you mentioned big names there, and Stephen Taylor. Big fan of Stephen Taylor, big fan of Aaron Jones, but they'll be missing. I have played in one of the local tournaments for the Atlanta Fire, and some great guys. Ridwan Palash. Huge fan of him. He works for Facebook, so I'll call him Facebook. Amila Ponzo, good left arm spinner, Cornet Dry, was the MVP of the Southern Conference, if I'm not mistaken. Evroy Dyer moving over from the old Atlanta Paramveers. So there's a lot of experience in that team. But the big player for me for this team was the 16-year-old Atindra Subramanian.
Yeah,
I think I was good there. I'm not going to repeat that, but
job.
he was really good. I did see him at the camp. 16 years old.
Yeah.
Corner Dry really loves him. He bowled in pressure situations, and that is what the minor league's for.
Yeah,
getting young players an opportunity to express their talents. And for me, we did, as the DC Hawks, play against the Atlanta Fire last year, and he was someone that really stood out for me. Yes, game awareness, all of those things are something that we can speak about and get better at, but if you're not putting the pressure situations, we're not going to get the outcomes, you know. So he's a real talent that I'm looking forward to playing against this year, because, like I said, this is what we're here for.
Right, absolutely, and we know how to say Tindra Subramanian. Listen to me, I know how to say his name, and then I get it wrong. We know how to say Tindra Subramanian's name.
Yes.
We called games here with him. He's been a standout for them. He's a brilliant player. It's great to see. Obviously they're going to keep him, but Viraj Vachel is another name.
Yes.
We both know Viraj. And he wasn't in the league last year as a U19, Viraj Vachel, but he is this year, and it's great to see his name on a team sheet this season.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic, and we know Atindra's name because we had to say it too many times, especially against the more slow side. He had to just say it a lot of the times. We'll move on over to the other Atlanta side, the newly formed Atlanta Lightning. They have named their wildcard player in Kerry Pierre, who's played international cricket for the West Indies, an explosive left-handed bat and a good all-rounder. They have named one of their marquees in Shamar Springer, who they brought over from the Atlanta Fire, who was electrifying in the field last year. Kyle Phillip, a priority domestic that they brought over from the Fort Lauderdale Lightning. And when you think of Kyle Phillip, you think of pace, and even more pace. Their other priority domestic is Sahil Charania, who they brought from the Atlanta Butterbeers, just kind of that natural progression. Sagar Patel, the other priority domestic, moves also alongside the Atlanta Fire. So it seems like the Lightning just kind of fleeced away some of these really highly talented Fire players. For their under-21 category, Heath Richards comes from South Africa. He played first-class and list A cricket over there. Heer Patel, the other under-21 who
is it? I never knew Heath Richards, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, and then we talk about Heer Patel as well, a left-arm spinner who was very good for the Butterbeers last year.
Yeah, big fan of Heer Patel, the most humble human being I've come across in America. Really nice kid. He did well for the Paramveers last year too. He bowled beautifully. Again, we played against the Paramveers for the DC Hawks, so he looked good. Like I said, there's obviously a big influence, Caribbean influence. Ricardo Powell obviously having the mobile up there and calling some of the players. I know that he's got Kerry Priya to play for him in a couple of local tournaments, but Shamar Springer had a good outing for the Atlanta Fire. It's going to be a good solid two teams they have in Atlanta at the moment. Looks good. Yeah,
and their domestic retained players. Look at that. Hanchard Hamilton, Mark Parchment. Both of those guys performed very well for last season in the South, and then they've got their draft players named here. We'll get around to that.
Yeah, their draft players were Neve McNally, Amrut Pore, so another youngster there that they had, Rajiv Reddy and Aditya Sharma. One under-19 we didn't talk about was Aran Chenchu, who was the top run scorer in the under-17 category for the South Atlantic Regionals and the MiLC Junior Championship this past year. So we'll see if he can get some playing time for the Lightning.
Yeah, like Dane said earlier, that's what this whole
That's what it's about. Yeah, no disrespect to the senior players like myself. I mean, we've had our time, you know what I mean. But we're there to help the younger players, and for them that brings me more joy to see a young player walking off the field with a big smile on your face, getting a 50 not out, taking the team over the line. That's where growth happens, and that's what we're doing this for. So that for me is important, and I hope that all the young players get opportunity to do well.
And Dane, that's why you're the captain of the Morrisville team right now. Because we have so many young players here.
Yes,
it's
we
really
do.
It's really a challenge to find a way to get them all in. And you know what? It's not good enough to give someone a token game.
No.
You're never gonna see what you got. You put undue pressure on a guy when he knows that this is his one chance.
Yes.
So you kind of have to commit to it.
Yeah.
And so it's great to see players when they are involved in the U19. It's a big thing. I've written about it a lot for Emerging Cricket, written an awful lot about the youth and how important it is to get the young players the playing time. It's just a no-brainer, you know.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah, and that's a great segue because now we're going to talk about Dane's Morrisville franchise here. We'll start off with the wild card player that was named Colin Archibald. So let's just hide Dane's face, make sure he doesn't smile too much when we say these names. Then we go to Obis Pinar as a marquee, moves over from the St. Louis Americans last year, 35th ranked player in all of minor league cricket. The other marquee was Lahiru Milanta, the Sri Lankan keeper who came over towards the later part of last year and showed some of his electrifying shots for the Morrisville side. They're under 21s. They retained Aditya Padala. Muhammad Abdullah Shah comes back over, so looking to get, I know Nate's a big fan. I know I'm a big fan of Muhammad Abdullah, so to see him get another look is great. Rohan Fadke, another under 21 who played for the U.S. under 19 side. Good all-rounder there. Abhiram Bolosetti, an under-19 player as well, also plays for the USA under-19 team. Aryan Shah, the other under-19 who does a little bit of everything, keeps, bowls, bats, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of role he fits in. And their domestics, Siva Kumar comes back as the opening bowler. Murali Krishnanka Raju, who was the 39th ranked player in all of minor league. He didn't get too many chances last year, so and still being the 39th player is still pretty impressive. You look at the other domestics in Chinmay Kushade, Dane Pete, of course, the man next to us, Kartikeya Jagadish, who has a little bit of a finger issue, so it'll be interesting to see when he's able to come back. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
All right, there we go. Official
He'll
word.
be fine. He'll be fine.
Kiran Sarvar Kumar, Sanjay Stanley, and then Vinod Kumar Kandaswamy, who came over from the Atlanta Butterbeers now to the Morrisville Cardinals. So I think we'll go to Dane. Dane, what do you think about the Morrisville side?
It's probably one of the best teams put together in the whole of the minor league. To be honest,
disappointed with any other answer.
There are every slot is full. If you look at all other teams, there's a couple of slots that's open. So we're quite on it at the moment. But I think having had this discussion a few times already, I think we were just looking for different options, different variations. Having now playing a lot of our games on turf, all our home games will be on turf. So just having a left-arm spinner in Urbi, having Colin Archibald as a left-arm seamer, and Aditya Padala as a left-arm seamer too. So that's two options we have. We have myself as the off spinner, JK as the leg spinner, Siva is the other opening bowler, explosive at the back end. Abdullah Shah, explosive opening batsman. So we just try to get every sort of area covered times two to make our job easier. With maybe going to play a game on Astro, we can go out there and have someone explode in the top of the order. So we really did think about putting this team together. But like you said, the most exciting thing for me coming down here was all the young players. Myself and Urbis and Siva is definitely pushing up the average age of this team. You got loads of under 19 players. Big season for Rohan Fadke. We want to give him big responsibility at the top of the order this year, to go out there and really express himself. We got Lahiru Milanta, who's the wicketkeeper batsman. He's going to add a lot of flair and fire into the team. So we well balanced, like you guys have said. Rohan Fadke, Sanjay Stanley for me are the two players that I really want to see do well. Not saying that other players shouldn't do well, but my favorite, I call him the Indian Italian, Abhiram Bolosetti. I call him, he's got a bit of flair to his surname. So I mean, there's a lot of young guys, like you said. Really excited about this team, but we just try to cover every aspect of it. And JK, he will be fine. He had a finger, broke his finger on his left hand, so he'll be fine.
Don't even matter.
Leg spin for me is the most important thing.
There you go. Well, yeah, the team looks pretty well balanced. balance to me. A lot of people don't know about a guy named like Abdullah Shah, but he didn't play a whole lot last season. The team, they had players in his role. But the season before, in the exhibition season, he was the top-ranked U21 in strike rate. And he did that mostly on turf, so that's impressive, even though that was a small sample size. So he's also a good fielder. All of the young players are good fielders. They
Yes.
really have been taught well.
Yes.
A lot of them grew up learning from Alvin Kalicharan locally. And, I've taken lessons from Alvin Kalicharan, and even he couldn't save me. But
I think also just for about, I think there's about 8 players that have been training for the last month. So we've been out in the indoors at the SAM facility, and we've been out on doing some fitness and fielding every Friday afternoon. But we've checked the weather. Tomorrow's a no-go for training. But we have been training, and myself and Urbis and Lahiru have been giving the guys roles in the team to sort of go out there and express themselves, and not really worry about too much about the outcome. But it's all about the process of getting there. So we're looking good. We've been training, so I mean, we're really excited for the season.
Yeah, and Obis, as you said, Aman, I think you said he was ranked 35th. Yeah. There's no way he's the 35th best player in the league. There's no way he's. I love watching him bat in November when USA was doing some training here at Church Street Park. There was some kind of basically scrimmage matches against some major league players, and he was involved in that. And he played here at Church Street Park in November. And he was.
I think he's probably the biggest pickup for the Maudsley cricket team this year.
Very humble of you to say.
No, definitely, no.
You beat me to the punch there.
No, he's a lot better than me. So yeah, he's a very, very good pickup.
He's a classy batter, that's for sure. Absolutely, there's no question about it.
Yep, we'll move down to the Florida teams, and we'll start with the Orlando Galaxy. Yet to name their wild card player, but their marquee in Tangerine Chanderpaul, who was ranked 38th in last year's rendition of the minor league big explosive bat.
Son of Shivnan Chanderpaul. That's the son of Shivnan Chanderpaul, the great Shivnan Chanderpaul.
Look at that.
Yeah. Tagnidine. Yeah.
And then we move on to the marquees to Monarch Patel, who moved over from the Florida Beamers, who are no longer part of minor league cricket. He moves to the Galaxy. You also have Dimitri Adams, who part of the Empire State Titans, who had explosive last year, and a name we forgot to mention when we were talking about what they lost, and he moves down to the Orlando Galaxy. Another domestic player for them, Nasir Ahmed, who is new to minor league cricket. Viraj Patel, who's also new to minor league cricket. He is an all-rounder down in Tampa. You have, I feel like their entire team is kind of new to minor league cricket, because Hardik Desai, Jermaine Harrison, and Sumit Serawat, all new to minor league cricket, and don't forget about Vasu Vegi as well. Then you talk about Bhaskar Dipan Ganasakti, who was an under-21 player for them. He's primarily a batsman who can give them a couple overs, bowling right arm medium. Matthew Comrie, who is another under-21 all-rounder. And then Adam Khan, a young leg spinner, so it's good to have him.
I know him too. I call him Patrick Mahomes if you look at his hairstyle.
Yes,
it looks a bit like Mahomes, yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, that is 100% true.
Yeah.
And it'll be good to have that kind of leg spinner on the turf if they do play some games against Fort Lauderdale. Dunay Nathaniel, who will presumably be continuing to lead the team, as he did last year as a domestic retention. Mitul Patel and Isuru Kuruwitaji, who both of those are also domestic retention. So it feels just a whole new side for Orlando. To be honest, they didn't really have a lot of games due to washouts, so it feels like they're getting their kind of a fresh start here in year 2.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, is they missed a lot of games due to washout. We made jokes about it a lot, like, hey, guess who didn't have a game this week because of a washout? And the answer was always Orlando Galaxy, and that was very unfortunate for them. But we had a lot of fun watching them here. They were a good group of guys. They seemed really, like a tight team. But like you said, there's a lot of new names in this team. Danae Nathaniel, definitely a leader on that team. So we'll see. He can hit the ball, can't he? He tore down our tent. He came
after our heads in the commentators' tent, just right on top of us.
Yeah, so that team, let's see how they look.
Yeah.
So then we'll continue moving down with the Florida teams and move to the Fort Lauderdale Lions, who they lost Kyle Phillip that we talked about earlier, but yet to name their marquee or any of their wild cards for that matter. But their under 19, Elton Tucker Jr. Nate and I have talked extensively about him and the left arm spin that he brings. Atul Iyer, another under 21 player, and then Sayuib Syed, another under 21. Their two domestic retentions were Amari Williams and Roy Silva. Roy Silva bringing a lot of experience playing for the U.S. team in years past. And then their domestics read off Adam Sanford, Christopher Lamont, Dean Morgan, Orlando Johnson, Honey Gorey, who really bowled one of the best balls of the entire tournament here at Church Street Park.
Right.
Masood Mohammed, Samir Khan, and Shamari Brown as well. So this is another team that we didn't really get to see a whole lot of them last year. That we're looking to see if they can continue to make strides forward. But they're yet to name their wild card and 2 marquees. So it feels like this team is there's a long way to go for this selection process.
Yeah. Shoaib Zayed actually from Maryland, Columbia, Maryland. Yeah, I coached him down when I was working out at Super Over Cricket Academy. I was doing one-on-one coaching with him. Young prospect, off-spin bowler, and can hit the ball quite a distance, So looking forward to seeing how one of my proteges go, to be honest. That's nice to see him picked up in one of the minor league teams. Really nice.
Well, you'll see him here for sure.
Yes, definitely. I'll take it easy on him.
Well, Elton Tucker Jr. was a part of the USA U19 selection setup. So he made it all the way to the selection camp. Yeah. It's tough to crack that team.
I heard lots about him. As a left-arm spinner too, it's going to be tough to crack.
Exactly. The role that he does. Yeah. It's very difficult.
I heard lots about him,
he's a good kid, good player. So I'll be excited to see how he goes.
Yep, and so we are still awaiting the results of the Southern draft as they come out. I'm not sure if we have those results
yet. The Southern draft was pretty much just Atlanta. So the other teams pretty much picked their teams. So we had the results of the Atlanta teams right in there with the if you can see, you have the spreadsheet up?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we do have the results of the South. That does pretty much wrap up the South, except for the wild cards, the marquees, things like that. We have the teams that we're supposed to name, outside of a draft zone. So we'll see. We know the Cardinals, not the Cardinals. We know the Morrisville team is pretty solid, but the. We'll take a look and see.
They look the most well balanced because there's 16 names in the list.
It looks solid, but these Atlanta teams look dynamite to me. Who's your pick?
Oh, man, he's sitting right. You can't do this to me sitting at Church Street Park. I can't go anywhere other than the Cardinals. I think the Fire still have a lot of that firepower that they did last year. They're going to be tough to beat, but you got to rep the hometown. So I'm going to go with Morrisville. All the youth players and bringing Dane, bringing Obis, I think is going to be really exciting.
Can I pick a team?
You can pick a team, sure. Okay. You picked this. If it's not the team that you picked last division?
Okay. Yeah. I'll go Florida Beamers this year. Okay, they're not part of it. I'll have to go with the Morrisville cricket team then. I think that's a pretty obvious choice. Yeah,
that's an obvious choice for you. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to.
But I will say, can I go one step further?
Sure.
I think Obis Pienaar will be the MVP of the South. I think so. I've got a feeling.
Yeah, that sounds like
I've got a feeling.
Pretty good feeling.
That sounds like a pretty good safe pick, I think.
Yeah. No allegiance
down at home.
Yeah, no allegiance to being South African or just moved here or
No Morrisville allegiance, no South African allegiance.
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that so maybe him and his wife can babysit with my wife and I go out somewhere. I'm not trying to say that, but yeah, I think he will be right up there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all based on the quality of player that he is. He's a great guy too. I think he's an absolutely immense addition to the team here. I know he loves playing here. I'm having a hard time picking. I really am because the Atlanta teams look solid. Both of them look solid.
Very good. Yes.
I got to give so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say the Morrisville team is going to be one of the 2 best teams. So I'm copping out. Saying Morrisville team is going to be one of the 2 best teams. The other one's going to probably be Atlanta Lightning, I think, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Just because there's so many of the guys. I don't know though. Corne Drya, Miliponzo, Zain Syed, the addition of Zain Syed.
It's hard to look away from that.
It's so hard. I think either one of these Atlanta teams, they're good-looking teams to me. What worries me about the Fire is that they're going to lose Stephen Taylor for such a long time, Aaron Jones for such a long time. That's a big part of their batting.
A lot of responsibility be on Corne Drya's shoulders, obviously being the player there. But he has put on some muscle in the off-season, so there's more. He can handle it then.
Saw a video of him smashing a team victory over in India yesterday.
Did he share it on his social media?
He shared it and he tagged me too, so I
he
shared
did.
it too. There you go.
He made sure Nate saw
Everybody,
it.
you want to see him? You want to see him you want to see him winning a game with a 6? Yeah, go ahead over there to my Instagram at Quick Fan USA, and you'll see it. Or go to his if you want. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Corny, I like his captain. I like his captaincy approach with the Fire last year. You kind of didn't really, you know, he the way he put himself in the game, you know, he didn't mind bowling in any situation where he felt like he could inject himself and bowl one over. He hardly ever bowled himself in a spell. You know, he bowled himself one over here and then one over here and one. You know, you got to be on your toes against this team. Because you never know. I think he's good at it. I think he's good at disturbing partnerships.
Yeah, I think he's just trusting himself as well, trusting all the guys around him, and he's played a lot of cricket, right? So he understands what kind of things batsmen don't like to do, and I think he understands his game so well. We saw it here at Churchill Park. You know, was just able to toy with the Morsel team whenever he wanted to when they came by. So it's really exciting to see him come play and see him be a captain.
Yeah, absolutely. So, any other thoughts on the South guys?
It's going to be competitive. I mean, that's what we here for, you know. Obviously, a couple of wins early is going to really shuffle the pack. But the cross conference games are going to be probably it's going to be those games that you're probably going to have to win. If you're looking at the strength of the teams, there's probably 3 teams that's quite heavy on top, and then the other teams, no big names. But like I said earlier, names sort of stand up, and then you forget about the Fort Lauderdale Lions or the Orlando Galaxy. Yeah, so Orlando Galaxy, you know, almost said the Orlando Magic, but the names sort of stand out, and you forget about the other team. So the biggest thing that you can do in cricket is the worst thing you can do in cricket is not respect the opposition. So I mean, like this is not like the Eastern Conference where there's just big names all over the place. So I think early wins, early momentum is going to be really, really important.
Right.
But like I said, we got a couple of young guys that's fit and ready to go that can play the whole competition.
Yeah.
Injuries and health is going to be really important in this year's edition of the minor league.
Yeah, and as you said, the early wins are really important. That we saw that in the East last season. The Empire State Titans barely clawed their way into the playoffs, even though they had that roster that they had, because they didn't do so great at the start of the season.
They were bottom of the table, I remember.
Yeah, and
change of captaincy to Christopher Barnwell. All of a sudden, things started looking good.
Yeah.
They started winning games. They started, getting over the line, and that's all you can ask for. I mean, that's the message I'm going to send to my team. It's about trying to. It's a bit of a cliche, but throw the first punch, and try to get some momentum, because we're playing every 7 days, so you're gonna have to try and get some momentum, and training in the week's gonna be important to have those discussions of where we can go get better, where we can sort of fix, and a couple of changes here and there, tactical stuff, and but hopefully we get out to Church Street Park to get some little training, to start to get the feel of the ground. We were out here earlier today with doing some fielding, but I mean, getting out on the surface is going to be probably the most important thing to start to get a feel of things. Right.
Well, Dane, it's been awesome having you on.
Thanks, guys.
I mean, I learned a lot.
I
don't know about you.
learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot.
but I mean, I know you know a lot already, so I'm asking you because
he's our stats guy. I'm definitely going to get him in.
Get him in the squad.
Definitely going to get him in.
So
he's the cricket. What's the ESPN guy? Woj, right? Is it,
Woj,
Stephen, yeah, he's the cricket version.
Oh, there you go. Right.
He's the cricket version. He knows everything.
Well.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Thank you for coming in. And if you're welcome to come back later in the show if you like.
I've got a 750-meter walk home.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'll be walking over.
Well, that brings us to the end of the South. And next up, we've got a pre-recorded segment with Emily Reynolds from Major League Cricket. So please stay tuned for that.
I'm Joel Manning, and I am the presenter for the Minor League Cricket show at the Crease. I love that Minor League Cricket provides a platform to expose young talents that would have pretty much otherwise gone unnoticed to the cricketing world if this tournament didn't exist.
Hi, I'm Jesse Singh. I play for New Jersey Stallions. I love minor league cricket because it's the best domestic structure we have in the country, and it provides platform and it gives exposure to many young and upcoming cricketers in the country.
Hi, I'm Zanya Dialvis. I'm a freelance videographer for minor league cricket, and my favorite thing about MiLC is just seeing the development and the growth of the players throughout the season. And then there's teams across the United States, so if you're an old fan, if you're a new fan, you can come together and enjoy cricket in the States.
I'm pleased to introduce our next guest, my friend Emily Reynolds of MiLC. Emily, thank you for joining me for the Minor League Cricket Draft Day live show.
Happy to be here.
It's about time that you joined.
I've been begging.
Well, you know, I guess we just got smart. Let's talk first about you. You're a Southern California native. How did you get into cricket?
It's a whirlwind of a story, and some of you already know it, but here goes. My brother was playing baseball in Australia, of all places, and it was a family vacation to go out and see him. I went early and did like a solo trip by myself, just decided to do what the locals do, and I went to a test match. Just randomly looked up, the Explainer episode on Netflix, thought I had enough knowledge, got there and was like, I have no idea what's happening, but this is really cool. It was Australia versus New Zealand at the Sydney Cricket Ground. So I was a super lucky girl to get like a single seat. And the next day I was supposed to go to the Blue something mountains, but it was too hot and smoky in 2020. So I decided to stay in my hotel room and watch some more test cricket. And that's literally how I got into cricket. I went to a Big Bash game as well, Adelaide Strikers versus Sydney Sixers at the Adelaide Oval, saw Rashid Khan take a hat trick, and like that was it for me. So I got back, bought me a year subscription to Willow, and now I'm absolutely obsessed. So yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Seeing a hat trick like that in one of your first games, like that's something else. I remember I went to a baseball game and I saw somebody hit for the cycle, and that's just such a rare thing. I'll never forget it. But yeah, I guess a hat trick is kind of like that, real rare. And of course, Rashid Khan, explosive, dynamic player, incredible player, best in the world. So you got to see that for your first T20
and
event.
I didn't even like really know what I was watching or witnessing. And now that I think back about it, I'm like, oh, I wish I could relive that. I have some pictures, but not a lot.
Right.
I have some video, and I'm like, just every so often go back and watch those.
What a great memory. So now you also play cricket, and your coach is Major League Cricket and USA Cricket all-rounder Marty Kane. I've been in communication with Marty for a couple of years, but finally meeting him in person in Houston last month, it made me like him even more. What's your take on Marty? Yeah,
so when I got back, it then was like lockdown, and I was like, I just have to, like, this is in my like soul now, so I need to find out how I can play. And I just Googled cricket coaches, Southern California, and Marty's website came up. And of course it was lockdown, and he's like, we're not doing anything right now. But come October 2020, I was driving down to San Diego for my first lesson, and it was like the most fun I'd had in forever. And it was just so awesome to get to know Marty. He is probably the most positive person that I know, and he really turned my life around, like personally and not just professionally, because he said, he was like, you're a really like pessimistic person. And I was like, oh my gosh, if someone who's only known me and seen me twice, like, in a couple of months has said that, like, I really need to turn something around. So that was like my goal for 2021 was to be more positive. And yeah, I try to go down there every month. It's an 1.5-hour drive, so it's not something that I would do every weekend, but if I lived down there, I'd be at his house all the time.
Marty Kane, life coach. I like that. That's pretty cool. What exactly is your title and your role with Major League Cricket? I know the answer, but why don't you say it in your own words?
Yeah, so to the players, I'm Emily from Social. On LinkedIn, I am a senior manager of marketing and fan development. Very very extremely lucky to have this position and to be on the starting ground of MLC. I tell Tom, my boss, all the time that it's a dream job, and it really is, because I manifested this dream from early 2020 to being like, I need to do something in cricket. And somehow within like less than 18 months, I was working for Major League Cricket. So,
awesome.
And Nate, you're also the spark plugs there. Your article in Emerging Cricket on me getting the volunteer job at USA Cricket, then got me a podcast with Peter Della Penna, and then I played in the interregionals in the Bay Area. And I think it was just like all those little steps, and Marty like being like, you need to work for Major League Cricket, was just like a door wide open for me. So,
well, that's great. Marty's positivity there kicked in just in time for you. I love seeing Major League Cricket and USA Cricket. When USA Cricket included you, that was a big landmark in my mind, because I knew a lot of people who got into cricket in a similar way that you did, in terms of just stumbling across it, you know, not having grown up with it, you know, as an adult, and being inspired by it and wanting to find a way to help out and spread the word here in the USA, and being met with a lot of gatekeeping and stuff like that. And so when USA first included you, I was like, this is great. This is, to me, was a sign of a new time. And so yeah, I loved writing about that. And then of course, when Major League Cricket latched onto you and brought you in, what a great decision there. I love seeing them involving new people, which they've done a lot of. We see that with commentary, even giving new guys a chance to get involved in commentary, even, you know, such as myself. I never did commentary before this. So
oh, I didn't know that.
so yeah, it's great. It's great to get these chances, and Major League Cricket's doing it via minor league cricket, is doing a great job at that right now, and I think that's going to continue. Speaking of ways to grow the game, being, you know, having something to do with spreading the word here in the USA. Man, have you been watching the Fair Break? It's been fantastic seeing the USA women perform there.
Yeah, I've watched it where I can. It's on like right when I start work in the morning, so it's really hard to, you know, watch it and dedicate time. But I am definitely watching, you know, Katika Kodali and Sindhu Sriharsha's team. Like I want to support those girls as much as I can, and Tara Norris. So it's really cool. And I had commented on your post the other day that I think Fair Break, we should host the second iteration of that at Morrisville, because we would have so much of a fan base there to come out for the girls. And I would just be like there on the front lines the whole entire time, like just gawking at them. But yeah, the women's game is just going to grow exponentially here. And, you know, watching the Cricket World Cup 50 overs was amazing for the sport as well. So it's, I mean, honestly, I love watching women's cricket more than men's cricket, especially if Cricket Australia is there, until USA Cricket gets to be a full member status, and then go USA.
Yeah, yeah. But, I'm with you with the Morrisville recommendation. I think from the time I saw this event, 35 different countries at it, I've been thinking about Church Street would be a perfect place for this. So I'm totally right there with you. It's a great idea, Emily, and maybe we can help nudge that along a little bit.
Yeah, we'll cross our fingers real hard for that.
So some big news from your neck of the woods recently. MLC announced that Shah Rukh Khan would be a big investor in the planned stadium in Irvine, California. There's still a long way to go to make it a reality, but a stadium so close to Los Angeles would be huge for the popularity of cricket in the USA, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that new venue?
Yeah, I mean, it's about 15 minutes away from my house, so I can't wait. Because hopefully we'll have like an office there, and I can, you know, go into the office when I so choose. And also, if there's cricket there every weekend, you know where I'm going to be. So yeah, it's really was very exciting. It was very well received, like throughout the world. And honestly, Orange County is such a great place for it. You know, it's not necessarily the city, but it's very easy to get to, and it's, you know, just the population around is, you know, very heavily into cricket. So I think it's a no-brainer, and I'm so excited that we have our ENA there, and hopefully there's no like roadblocks anywhere.
Yeah, let's hope that comes through. It looks like it's well on its way right now, and that, you know, it would be a challenge for it to be here on time for the World Cup in 2024. But if we get the Olympics, you know, it'll be ready by then. And most importantly, it'll be a well-used venue by Major League Cricket. You know, I mean, a sports stadium in Los Angeles, you know, there's going to be a bunch of stars there in the front row. It's going to be like an anchor stadium for the league, you know. It's going to be...
Yeah, and it's honestly like the traffic going this way is a lot better than going up to LA. So, and there's a lot of hotels around. You know, we've got the beach right here. So, I just think, yeah, it's a perfect location, and the great park in Irvine is beautiful and has the room and has the infrastructure. So, I'm really crossing my fingers for the T20 World Cup. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, I can only imagine like that the fan base here is going to grow so incredibly much.
Welcome back to the Minor League Cricket Draft Day live show, and I've got a new guest with me right now. We just talked about him a lot. We sang his praises, and it wasn't just because he was standing over there behind Babar. It's because he's a genuinely good player. We got Obis Pinar here with us, and Obis, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Nate. Nice to be here.
Yeah, and last year you played with the St. Louis team, the St. Louis Americans, and you know, you had that really memorable victory against Houston where you won the game at the end in the last over against Willem Ludwig. That was Aman and I have talked about the game tons of times. It was the visuals of having all the fans running out onto the field really went a long way on my show. So, but yeah, welcome to Morrisville, and I hope you are enjoying yourself here so far.
Yeah, it's been really good. Thanks, Nate. It's beautiful out here in this part of the country, so I've enjoyed it so far. My wife's enjoying it as well, which is important. So I think we're off to a good start.
That's great. That's great. Now, you were here in November, as I mentioned before, playing against USA players to prep them, to give them some practice and stuff. And I noticed that you played really well on this ground, and I'm hoping that carries over to this season. Yeah. But can you speak about this ground here, Church Street Park, and what your thoughts are about it?
Yeah, of course. I'll never forget the first day I drove in here, and I saw the field on my left-hand side, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is picturesque. Like the trees in the background. I didn't expect to see this in USA, so I immediately fell in love with it. And then once we got to play on the wicket, it was actually a decent wicket towards the end of the season. It was a little bit worn out, but it still played well. So yeah, it's definitely for me the best ground in America. If they can look after the square, yeah, I think it's the best ground in America.
Yeah, and we've got some new grounds coming up. We've talked at length about those. The recent announcement, SRK making Shah Rukh Khan making a deal with, investing in Southern California ground or stadium, actually, at Great Park there. That's excellent news. We have the one in Dallas that's upcoming, formerly a minor league baseball stadium. So yeah, we're up and coming now with the venues on that side of things. Hopefully, a few of those will be ready for the World Cup. But I would love to see Church Street Park in the World Cup, especially for the USA games, because you know you're going to have a good support here, a good fan support here.
Yeah, and I suppose that's other thing. Yeah, you know you're going to get the supporters in, and that's massive. If you put 3,000 to 5,000 people in here, I mean that's a great atmosphere. So hopefully, I'm really hoping to get that USA games here, like you said. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna go into the Chicago draft now. We had it timed a little bit differently before, but as we said, we had to start off a little bit later. But I'm going to start talking about the Chicago Blasters now. Their team. There are two teams picking in the Chicago area draft, and that's the Blasters and the brand new Chicago Tigers. And the Blasters will have Naja Iqbal, who's retained.
And he was the top 40 player in the league last year.
Yeah, top 40 player in the league. Thank you very much, stats guy. Appreciate that. Let's start with the new players for the Blasters. Shreyas Ramesh comes over, and Kevin Phillip and Arjun Reddy, new players. Retainees are domestic Sai, Charith Dugapati, Dada Prakash, and Fahad Babar. Fahad Babar, one-time USA player, gritty type of batter, does whatever he needs to do to stay there. Good guy too. So then we also have, I think I mentioned I mentioned the U19s, Shreyas Ramesh. I mentioned him. So we have Najim Iqbal and Ashar Mehdi. Yeah, so that's the Chicago Blasters after their draft. They haven't named one of their marquees, haven't named the wild card. Let's see who they can pick up. What are your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, I'm excited for Kevin Phillip. He's a young leg spinner, also plays off the bat really well. And I think he's someone who didn't really get a lot of opportunities last year to play. I was waiting for him to really be effective and just never got to see him play. So I'm really curious to see. I might be a little bit biased. I've played a lot of cricket with him, so I'm really interested to see what he's able to do this year. But then to retain Najim Iqbal, I think is big for the Chicago Blasters as they try to get a little bit better of a start this season.
Yeah, and I agree with you. So, Obus, you played in the Central last season. You got to play against these Chicago teams. You got any thoughts on the Chicago Blasters roster right here?
Yeah, I think what's going to be important for actually both the Chicago teams is just improving from last year. Obviously, they both had a less than ideal season last year. So if they can just keep improving, adding to the squad, getting some youngsters in, I think that's the most important thing for them. Najam, really good player. So they've got a couple of experienced guys in there. So if they can look to, sort of win 5 or 6 games in the season, I think, that's what they probably need to do this season.
Right. Yeah. There's no easy division in this league, and there's a lot of teams in this league. So when you get to be a good team, there's not a lot that separates you from the other good teams. And it takes a lot to get there, and let's hope they can build on last season and steadily improve. Their draft pool this season is Ankush Agrawal, Jay Patel, Abir Chippa, and Pankaj Kampli. And that moves us along to the Chicago Tigers team, and they have named one of their marquees, but they still have yet to name a marquee or a wild card. So their first, the only marquee that they've named is Saad Ali. Kushal Ganji is a domestic. Prithvish Patel, Sunny Bhatti, Sami Sohal, Tejas Vishal, Pratir Mehta. Those are the 3 youth players, Sohal, Vishal, and Mehta. Their domestics retainers are Karen Kumar, Deepchand Pinaka, Ranandeep Aleti. And their draft picks are Okari Sims, Manan Patel, Rishi Mehta, and Rohit Teti. So they get to announce their wild card, which is not unusual. It's actually more unusual if somebody does by now. Which of these guys stands out to you, Aman?
Yes, Saad Ali, who played Pakistani cricket. He's a top order batsman, left-hander, and he should be really explosive for them. They just saw another guy I'm biased to. I play a lot of cricket with him as well, good leg spinner.
Right.
So I think he is someone who, I'm looking for him to have a kind of a bounce back year. Didn't really have the greatest first season, so for him to get a bounce back year, I think would be huge. And then Pratir Mehta, I think, has an interesting story. We'll hear more about that later. But commentated last year's edition, this year eligible to be part of the player pool, and now is in the player pool and got selected. So I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
You mentioned Tejas. He made it to the U19 selection camp in the Bay Area last year. I got to watch him play in person. He's a good performer. Unfortunately, card just stacked against you if you're trying to make that team as a spinner.
Yeah.
But very good player. Saad Ali, as you mentioned, dynamite player. How about you, Obus? Anything stand out here, or do you think they need to go about the same way as the Blasters?
I think Saad's a massive addition for them. Obviously, I know you've mentioned him. He's a classy batter. He makes batting look easy at times. Hits well over extra cover, so he's going to be big for them. He'll have to score a lot of runs. Karan Kumar, experienced player, played a little bit with them as well. Good player. So they need, I think for a lot of these teams, or for Chicago, both the teams, they need to get the runs on the board. I think you can get away, especially on turf wickets, with a couple of good spinners. But if they can get the runs on the board, that'll give them a chance to try and defend that.
Right. And we have the Texas drafts that are just about to start, if not already started. And then also the St. Louis Americans, your old team from last season, have not named their roster yet, and nor have the Michigan Cricket Stars, who both of those teams are draft free. They're not in a draft zone, so they don't have the same deadline that everybody else has. But we have the Texas draft coming up, very exciting draft. And in the meantime, we're going to go to another pre-recorded segment, and I'm on UT's that. Why don't you introduce that?
Yeah, so Prathir Mehta, we will have a conversation with him. I had an interview with him earlier this week about, being a commentator in the first rendition of minor league and now transitioning into being a player and what that means to him. So enjoy the segment, guys.
My name's Brian Arcane. I'm a minor league cricket umpire. A thing I like about minor league cricket is that as the level of play raises around the country, it demands that umpires raise their level of skill as well. And as the game professionalizes, we plan to professionalize along with it.
Hi, I'm Karthik Arvati from Michigan. I'm an umpire in minor league cricket. One thing that I like about minor league cricket is that it gives an opportunity for youngsters and all various other players to showcase their talent in such a big platform in the country. I hope we find more talents and youngsters from our country to represent the nation soon using this platform of minor league cricket.
Omkar Akolkar here, minor league umpire from Michigan. I feel minor league has brought a certain professionalism to the game in the US, which has positively impacted the player behavior, which makes our lives on the field a lot easier.
Ladies and gentlemen, hi, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are enjoying our great live draft coverage from Church Street Park. I'm Abhiram Patel here, obviously. The other man on my screen is Prathir Mehta. He's an interesting story that we're going to get into. But first, Prathir, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. And for those of you who don't know or might recognize his voice, thinking, why do I recognize Prathir or the voice? Prathir Mehta was a commentator in last year's minor league season. And this year, he has been selected by the Chicago Tigers. So he's not going to be playing. We're going to lose his voice, but get to see him on the field. Prathir, I want to first talk to you about commentating last year. Just tell me about that experience of commentating in minor league cricket.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was quite a surreal experience. I went to the ground just one day, obviously, to watch a game because I had an injury, so I couldn't play. And I was kind of just roped into the box, and they're like, well, I've heard you're pretty good at talking and you're pretty good at, your cricket, so why don't you just go in and have a few words in the commentary box? And it started off as that. Then I did a few games, and it turns out that they liked what I did, so they just kept me going in that booth for I think like 6-7 games at that point. And obviously I couldn't cover the semifinals, finals, as that's obviously high profile, but the quarterfinals were possibly the highlight of my whole second half of last year.
Yeah, it was awesome to see you play. So obviously derailed by an injury and then getting to go into the comm box and commentate alongside Brian Walters, who, kind of big name for all of us, people here in the United States, and he's covered U.S. cricket for a very long time. Tell me about that. Were you kind of like in awe, or maybe just were you nervous at all? Or was it just, he's just another guy and I just got to go and talk cricket with him?
Well, I definitely say I was nervous because I'd met him previously because he obviously lives close by to here, but I'd never talked to him in a commentary box, had a conversation with him in that sense. But just being with him in that box is quite calming because he has, I would say, almost like a, not really a fatherly vibe, but if you understand what I'm saying, he calms you down in the sense that he knows exactly what you're going to say and he can lead you in the right direction.
Absolutely. The voice is soothing too. You're just sitting there listening and you feel all right. It calms the nerves down. And obviously you said you were dealing with an injury. So your initial plan last year was to register for minor league and play in the tournament, right? Obviously that got derailed. What kind of injury were you dealing with?
I had broke my wrist. I mean, I wouldn't be able to play anyway because I wasn't old enough.
Okay.
But I was obviously playing local leagues and stuff, trying to get better. But yeah, just happened, freak injury. I dove, landed the wrong way, broke my wrist. Did that for quite a few months.
Well, now you're back in, right? Chicago Tigers, they pick you up. How exciting is that now? Obviously not going to be in the booth anymore, but now, of age, no injuries, you're healthy, you're ready to go, new franchise as well. How cool is that they said, you know what, our pre-draft selection, you're going to be one of them?
Yeah, I mean, even now it's still a little bit hard to believe because, I mean, same time last year I was kind of just like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And then this year it's like, oh my God, I'm actually going to be playing in such a big tournament. So it's just like a big step up. And at the moment, I'm not really, there's not nerves at the moment, but I can assure you, as soon as I get to Chicago, I will definitely be feeling jitters.
So, I don't know if you saw this post. I'm sure you have. Brian tagged us all in it last year, you, me, and then JL Hans. He posted it on Facebook, and he talked about how, there's these 3 kids, and whatever they got to stay in the booth. I think he had a conversation with me. He told the same thing to you, stay in the booth. Have you broke the news to him yet that you're going to be playing with Chicago?
Not yet. I was, in fact, thinking about how I should tell him because every time I meet him, he's always like, you're now retired from cricket. You're now my co-commentator. So I'm going to have to send him a message at some point and be like, hey, buddy, I can't quite join you in the booth this year.
Oh, man, that is going to be a funny thing. I saw you posted on social media about how, Brian, I'm retired, at least for now, from the comm box. And that should be a very interesting conversation, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I hope that I have a spot in that booth with him after hopefully maybe 30, 40 years.
So I do want to ask you, you got to watch minor league very closely, right? Front and experience, commentate the matches. Now coming into season 2, kind of are like, do you have this kind of new angle that maybe other people don't who are just getting into it, or is there something that you know more of, or is this kind of just like, I have no idea what's going on, I'm just going to roll with the punches?
Well, I mean, see, obviously playing the game and viewing it from outside is very, very different. But even just being in that booth, it kind of helps me see like how, even though there are all these star names, that it doesn't mean that they're the only ones who will perform. There will be games where even the underdogs, even the names where you probably haven't heard of before, they can also step up and perform. And that's something you don't see very often when you're kind of just in the background, just looking at the scorecards from home.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, and that's exciting. That's exciting stuff, man, because now you get a whole new angle on it. Last year you commentated, you said like pretty much the back half of the season and back half of the year was pretty much made by commentating. You have a particular moment that really sticks out to you, or like a favorite moment from last year when you were calling these games?
Well, I wouldn't say moment, but it has to be one innings. I mean, it's going to be famous. Everyone's going to heard it before, but that one innings of Unmukt Chand in that best of 3 series, I mean, I have not seen anything like it. Like, even on TV, it's nothing like it. I think he scored like 130 in 60, 70 balls, and he basically just completely took the game away from the Austin Athletics.
Yeah, I got to see Unmukt Chand here in Morrisville, and you see him one time, and you said this is something different. There's just a different level when you get to see him in person. I'm sure calling that game live was something real special and a sight to hold. And, I'm going to ask you now, what are you looking forward to this year, right? Obviously, it's a new thing for you, not commentating, you're playing, as we mentioned before. What are you looking forward to?
Mainly, I would say just getting as much experience as I can from this season, because obviously it's going to be my first season. I'm probably one of the youngest ones in the team, if not the youngest. That just get as much experience as I can for the upcoming season so that I can better perform. And even if I don't get as many games as I would, like, let's say, in the next 3-4 years, then I just want to be as prepared for the next few years.
Yeah, that's great, man. Because again, young kid, wasn't eligible last year, so that tells you, just coming up on the 15, 16-year-old mark, and he's already making a name for himself again. Whether it's in the comm box and now with the Chicago Tigers, Prathir Mehta is going to be a name we're going to hear a long time here, at least in the United States, for for at least the next 10, 20 years. That feels like a for certain for you. I'm going to ask you this. Obviously, I feel like I know the answer. But commentating versus playing, well, if you could do one for the next 20 years, you have, as high level as you could go, what's the one you'd rather do?
I don't know if you'd like this answer. Brian definitely won't like this answer. Sorry, Mr. Brian, if you're hearing this, but I definitely want to play.
No, it makes sense. I was ready for that answer to be had. I'm not sure Brian's gonna like that one. But Brian, if you're seeing it, don't hit him just yet. Don't kill him just yet. Don't worry. Let him play a little bit. He's gonna be a big star one day. Prathir, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast talking to you, and good luck with the whole season coming up.
Thank you for having me. All
right, guys, we are jumping back into the live draft coverage. Hope you enjoy this again, Prathir. Absolutely great talking to you, and we'll see you guys back at Church Street Park. Thank you so much for hopping on an interview with us. And I'm going to send it back over to Nate as we go to the Michigan and St. Louis team selections. Nate, what do we have for that?
Well, we've got we can now announce the St. Louis team and the Michigan team, which are the two non-draft teams in the division. And luckily, we got Obus here, who played for St. Louis last year. He can help tell us who's who and who's different, and give you guys some better context and some better insight than I can. But let's start with the St. Louis Americans team. And we mentioned earlier Justin Dill comes over. That's a big move, I think. It's a huge haul for them. He was a big difference maker for the Stallions last year. Helped get them all the way to the final. And he was a big part of the reason why they got there. So he comes over. Luke Schofield, he retains. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Well, you could say Luke Schofield, but yeah, Schofield, I suppose, but Schofield.
Okay, well, I mean, he was your teammate. So.
He's a South African as well, so that's we go Schofield.
There you go, Schofield. So Paris Marwaha is retained. He's U21. They have a bunch of guys listed as U19 right now. Arnav Jam, Bhavya Mehta, Parth Patel, Siddhant Shah. Now, some of these guys I'm sure you are familiar with, right, Obus?
Yeah, of course. None of them were in the squad last year because they were too young still. So they're all youngsters, are really good young players. I think in 2 or 3 years' time that squad will be strong. So it's good additions for them. I see they brought in 4 of those guys. Arnav Jam, off spinner, opening batter, attacking. Bhavya, very good opening batter, talented, scored a lot of runs last year for the U17s, U19s. Parth Patel, all-rounder, like really good talent. Off spinner and batter, brilliant fielder. And then you've got Siddhant Shah, left arm spinner. He actually just turned left arm spinner only last year, and he did a brilliant job. Great control, balls with good pace, and he gets it to spin a little bit. So, yeah, I would say that's the big thing with them. They've got some really good youngsters in there.
I think if I could, I would become a left-arm orthodox spinner also. I think that's a safe bet if you want to be effective in the USA, is become a left-arm orthodox spinner. Of course, then it depends on what your aspirations are. If you want to crack the men's team, you're going against 30 people.
Exactly. I was going to say you're competing against a big pile of people there.
Right, but if you just want to be effective for your team, that's the way to go.
For sure.
So we've got Ahmed Butt, Dhruv Dugal, Murali Basupali. Nikhil Kanchan comes over to the St. Louis Americans. That's a big move. He was a big player for the Michigan Cricket Stars last season, so that's good news for St. Louis. Very good top order guy, athletic fielder, good. Yeah, he's been a friend of the show.
He finished 66th in ranking for minor league last year, so we know what kind of player he can be.
So very solid domestic production there from him. Sam Das, Siddharth Salati, and Yashodhan Mahajan round out the team, and they still haven't named a marquee and a wild card. Obus, looking at that team, if you were going to pick a wild card, do you have a player in mind you would pick for them, or do you have a role in mind you would like to see in that spot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they need a bit of experience with all the youngsters coming in. There's obviously a couple of guys that played last season. It's a little bit older, but not necessarily all the experience. Really good guys in general. I think like sort of team morality will be massive for them. Like they can be a good fielding team with all the youngsters. So I would be looking at experience, maybe left-handed batter in the middle who can obviously bowl. You need an all-rounder. Justin Dill will provide that role, but I think if they can get a hard-hitting left-handed batter in with some experience, I think that's what they probably need.
Yeah, I mean, every team could use that, right?
I think so, yeah.
After losing such a batsman, they might need to replace one. You know,
I think they might need 3.
They might need 3, 100%.
So let's move on to the Michigan Cricket Stars. We just mentioned Nikhil Kanchan, not on that team anymore. Yeah. A big heart and soul player for them. But they do name their wild card in 2 marquees here. Zishan Maqsood is their wild card. That's pretty big. Then you've got Nauman Anwar, Muhammad Mohsin. Another couple of great players right there. And Zia Khan, Ryan Scott returns as a domestic. Arjun Vajela. Ryan Scott, we saw him last season, one of the first players, if not the first player to score a century. He was him and Corey Anderson. I can't remember which one did it first. They did it on the same day.
Weekend,
Yeah. So it's starting to drizzle again. The luck we've had. I'm blaming the fact that you cut your hair.
Oh man.
Like you had these long, fast. You were taking wickets too. What are you doing?
I know. I felt like Shoaib Akhtar the way I had the hair down and everything going. But I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. There's no rain in the forecast at all, and we're still experiencing some drizzle out here.
It's gotta be the haircut. I can't believe you did this to us. But we're going to move on to their Viraj Vachel. I mentioned him, good player, young player. Matthew Ford as a U21. Matthew Ford plays like a 27-year-old. Like he's a gun. He's fantastic.
Big, fast, strong, just unreal.
Yeah. Niaz Khan, Ezet Ulal, Umar Imam, and Arjun Ajbani. Christopher Vantul, Farhan Ali, Haladhara Das, Theo Barnett, and Tirth Patel round out the team. How does this team look to you? I don't see, there's a couple of, I'm moving my computer out of the rain, hopefully. So that's why I'm leaning like that. But they're missing some names that they didn't have last year. What do you think about this team now, though?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Ryan Scott, obviously, you know, made a name for himself last year, made it all the way to the U.S. national squad. We talk about Matthew Ford, you mentioned him. I think he's someone that you always have to talk about. And then to bring in a guy like Zishan Maskood, who plays in Oman, you know, very good Omani cricketer, a big left-hand bat at the opening spot, to go alongside Ryan Scott might be a making for a great partnership all the way throughout the tournament.
Yeah, you know, you'd love to see associates like that included in a tournament like this. You know, it's getting a little bit rainy here. What's it looking like on the forecast? Somebody check it. I'll check it out. We can talk a little bit about.
So Obis, again, you've had experience against this Michigan Cricket Stars team. Is there anything that's you're seeing from here that is kind of different from last year, and you think that's going to help them out?
Yeah, for sure. I think last year they were sort of, for me, the surprise package. They were really aggressive the way they played their cricket. They were hitting the ball hard. They played, obviously, their home games. They played on Astro wickets, so they made good use of that. They had Saad bin Zafar.
Yeah, Saad bin Zafar.
Yeah, the Canadian international.
Big player they're missing, and Nick Curtin also.
Yeah, exactly. So they're missing a couple of players. So for me, it'll be interesting to see if they can go one step further this year and go to that playoff spots. And if they can sort of keep up the momentum from last year, I see a lot of changes. So it'll be a very interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, they've lost 3 big performers in Nick Kanchan, Saad bin Zafar, and Nicholas Curtin. Yeah. That's a lot to lose for any team. But last season they were a thrilling team to watch. They just barely missed the playoffs. They had a lot of really close games. They were one of my favorite teams to watch last year. Yeah. This year, very different looking team. Let's see if they can still make it happen. Obviously, you got Ryan Scott on that team. The interesting thing is he scored so many runs, but he was never really in the middle after like I think the second wicket. I think there was that was a weird stat. He was out there all day, but his partner gave him. He had good partners. Yeah. So let's see if they can provide that for him this year. And I'd like to thank Tom Nielsen for that little tidbit of information, the main stat guy. When we talk about player rankings for stats, also, we're talking about advanced stats. We're not talking about accumulative stats. We're talking about runs saved or run value over replacement player in the league, and that's really what the rankings mean. So if you gave your team 60 more runs than the average player in the league throughout the course of the season, you had a really good rating. Yeah. And if you obviously, so you're penalized more for like if you stay around and you don't score. Obviously T20, that's the name of the game. You want to score. So if you get out after 12 balls every game and you score 9, you're gonna be at the bottom of the league. But if you get out and have 1 ball, you've not really hurt your team that bad.
Yeah, and so the interesting thing about it is if you're just looking at it, you might see a lot of the bowlers have negative categories down there, a negative in that bowling category, and you're thinking, how are all the bowlers, like Cornet Dry has a negative stat in his bowling category, like how does that work? Well, it's counting the runs that you're giving up, so you're giving up negative runs, so as a bowler you want to be in that negative category. It seems a little bit backwards, but the first time you look at it, you're like, this does not seem right at all, and then you're like, okay, there we go. Yeah. Nate had to explain that wouldn't be the first time around as well.
Well, just to save our computers right now, since it's drizzling on us and it's not supposed to keep up. It's actually not even supposed to be happening right now.
It's got to be the haircut. I think that's what it was.
It's got to be the haircut. So just to save us our computers, I think we're going to go to a pre-recorded segment that we did basically the very last episode that I did of the minor league cricket show, which featured I talked a lot about the stadium in Southern California and also the John Boy warehouse experiment. So please stay tuned and watch that. It's coming up right now. Still the off season for minor league cricket, but we've got plenty of cricket going on in the USA and some very exciting things to catch up on. For starters, minor league cricket announced today that Toyota will return as title sponsor for its second season of play in 2022, with Sunoco signing on as presenting sponsor for America's first and only nationwide T20 championship. For the 2022 season, the league will officially be called the Toyota Minor League Cricket Championship, presented by Sunoco. Major League Cricket recently announced some exciting news on the venue front in Southern California, where an exclusive negotiating agreement was reached with the city of Irvine. The Orange County city, with a population of 300,000, is a part of the Los Angeles metropolitan area and will be home to Shah Rukh Khan's Knight Riders Group franchise. The stadium will be located at Great Park, a multi-sports park with several existing fields, courts, extensive parking, and a 2,500-seat soccer stadium. If approved, the cricket stadium will cost roughly $30 million and will have a capacity of 10,000 when it opens, with room to expand in the future. Superstar actor Shah Rukh Khan, whose Knight Riders group includes the Kolkata Knight Riders in the IPL and the Trinbago Knight Riders in the CPL, was quoted in the announcement, saying, "Plans to build a world-class cricket stadium in the greater Los Angeles area is exciting for us and MLC. This will no doubt have a transformational impact for cricket in one of the world's most iconic metropolitan destinations." If you're like me, you're probably imagining all the famous sports franchises based in Los Angeles. And the Lakers stand out when I think about the purple and yellow aesthetic and star-drawing potential of the Knight Riders, especially after seeing this season's KKR uniforms, which I think are their best ever. You have to think that an LA-based Knight Riders team is going to reach out for some big names to pull in big crowds, and that 10,000-seat stadium will be expanding in no time. Who are some of the stars that you want to see playing in LA? I've got one in particular in mind. Speaking of venues, Musa Stadium was announced as the host of USA Cricket's World Cup League 2 Trilaterals from May 28 through June 15. The Pearland, Texas ground will become the second ground in the USA to achieve ODI status, the first being Broward County Stadium in Lauderdale, Florida. USA will host UAE and Scotland in the first series, running from May 28 through June 4, and then Nepal and Oman in the second series from June 8 through June 15. The table doesn't look too good at the moment, with USA sitting in 5th place out of 7 teams and needing a strong homestand to make up ground with 3 away series coming up starting in Scotland in August, and then Namibia and PNG, of which dates remain unannounced. Major League Cricket's Houston Challenge helped prepare the USA men's team at the start of April with some 50 overs action, featuring top cricketers in the USA.
For me personally, it was good. It was good to get back into the 50-over format. I've been playing a lot of T20 cricket over the last few months.
USA U19 opener Sai Mukamala led the competition in runs, the second straight time a USA U19 batter has led a USA cricket-supported tournament in runs after Rahul Jarawala led the 2021 Men's National Championships in November. In extra special news, Major League Cricket visited the John Boy Media Warehouse on April 22 for some hybrid blitz ball cricket experimentation. Say that 3 times fast. Liam Plunkett, Corey Anderson, Smith Patel, and Aaron Jones were on hand to show off their skills against the John Boy crew. Major League Cricket let me tag along, and I got to talk to Jimmy and Jake about their recent interest in cricket and why American sports fans should give cricket a chance.
I just said on our podcast today with Trevor Plouffe, he was bitching, I don't know if I can say that, about intentional walks in baseball. And I said, you love T20 cricket, Trev, because every ball matters. And if the pitcher throws an unhittable pitch, it's a run. So there's a lot more weight to it. So baseball's biggest problem right now are foul balls. Foul balls are up across the league, and walks, which are just pitches of no action. And in cricket, in T20 cricket, for anyone that knows, a pitch of like no action is a win for the bowler and the fielding team because it's a dot ball and there's limited balls. So that mindset is different. that the offense should try to put every ball in play. There's a lot more running. Plays at the plate and plays, outfield assists are always highlights in baseball, and happens all the time. And then it kind of has the hockey effect, where in hockey every goal is exciting and they celebrate, and in cricket every wicket is exciting and they celebrate because it's a little more rare when you get it. So I think if you relate it to some other sports and say there's action nonstop, they'll understand it once they pick up the gameplay.
I mean, we have this beautiful warehouse. Cricket, massive sport worldwide. I'm learning. I mean, it's basically dumb American. It's like baseball, kind of. I love baseball, so I'm getting my cricket on. Gym's full cricketed out. And I mean, after today, I think everyone kind of saw I have it. So as the league starts to develop, I feel like there might be eyes. I look pretty good in the Philly jersey, right? People are saying. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited what you guys are doing, and I'm excited to let it rip.
I'm excited that it can be a little more approachable and get people out to games, because once you get told a couple of the rules and then watch a match, it's easy to pick up. It really is.
More to come on John Boy for sure. After that, the MLC stars headed over to the famous Dream Cricket Academy in Somerset, New Jersey for a Q&A with local youth.
It's amazing. I mean, we've always had professional cricketers come and visit our kids, but during the pandemic, nobody came here. So it's good to have amazing cricketers come and inspire this next generation of cricketers. And, if you saw the interaction, the questions they asked, they were really smart, and they got so much out of it. So appreciate that these amazing cricketers, Corey, Liam, Aaron, and Smith, so happy to have them here answer those questions.
Women's cricket is also ramping up nationally as USA Cricket's 2022 Women's National Championship pathway kicked off with registration. Last year's event was such a success that it won the ICC 100% Female Cricket Initiative of the Year Development Award for 2021. 4 members of USA Cricket's women's team are competing in the historic 2022 Fairbreak Invitational. The Fairbreak features 6 franchise T20 teams this year, with representation from 36 nations. The Fairbreak is likely the most diverse cricket tournament in history. Tune in on Willow to watch as Geetika Kodali and Shabani Bhaskar play for the Sapphires, Taryn Norris for the Barmy Army, and Captain Sindhu Sriharsha, the lone associate cricketer to captain a team in the tournament, skippers the Warriors. USA head coach Julia Price and USA Women's Cricket Coordinator Julie Abbott are also both on the Warriors staff. Geetika and Tara have already made their marks on the tournament, both taking 2 wickets on Thursday.
In the air, should be out. Yes, it is. It's an easy catch in the end. It's the end of Taylor, out for 19.
And finally, the minor league cricket draft is coming up next week, set for Thursday, May 12. Follow along here as we keep you up to date on roster changes ahead of the 2022 minor league cricket season, and check out our live draft show. Thank you for watching, and go USA. Oh, we're back. Sorry, we were all admiring this beautiful cricket ground that we get the privilege of looking at all the time. It's there's nothing like looking at Church Street Park under the lights, and but we're back. We got a job to do. We can't just sit here and gaze into beauty.
It would be
all
great,
day.
though, wouldn't it?
It would be awesome. We do that anyhow. So let's talk about the Houston results here. The Houston teams. First of all, let me make sure I'm looking at the right one first. We're going to look at the Lone Star Athletics. Last year they were called the Austin Athletics, but it didn't really make a whole lot of sense because they were on the south side of Houston, and this year they're called the Lone Star Athletics. So let's take a look at their rosters now that the Texas part of the draft is done. The West draft is starting up right now, so we got to catch up a little bit, guys. All right, Lone Star Athletics. They get to play down at, they play at Saki Stadium there. Oh, the title of this thing is gone. All right, so let's start off with their wild card, Derville Green. And then their marquees are Nitish Kumar and Cameron Sheikh. So Nitish Kumar Canadian, lives in Houston now. Always seems to perform in every tournament that I have seen him in. I just saw him down in Houston at the Houston Challenge, and he performed quite well there. I believe he had a century there or close to it.
Yeah.
Can perform with the bat or the ball. Has been Canada's captain in the past. Great grab for them. Let's see.
Yeah, finished as a 43rd ranked player according to advanced stats in the league last year. So to get him back is great.
Yeah, to keep him is great. So then we got Johnny Khan, friend of ours. Who doesn't love Johnny Khan? Everybody, he's a great guy. He plays spin super well. One of the best in the country at playing spin. Has a tremendous sweep shot. Good coach too. He is now one. He's now one member shorter in his long hair club that he belongs to. Now that you cut your hair. Then we got Cheyenne Jahangir, who played in the CPL last year for Barbados, along with Hayden Walsh Jr. and obviously Smith Patel too. So, or actually, yeah, was that last year? Or was that? I think it was the year before. Cheyenne Jahangir.
I believe it was the year before.
So, but either way, a good player. Keeps up at the stumps when he gets the chance to with the medium pace bowlers. We saw him do that a lot last year with Laksh Park. So let's move on from him. Sidesh Patari, Josh Sarapelli. Okay, we're going into the youth now. Josh Sarapelli, Hrit Hinge, Abhinav Sikaram are their three underage players, 21 or U19. Jay Desai, Ali Bangish, Hamza Bangish wrap up their domestics. Those are some good domestic players. Yeah. We saw Ali and Hamza Bangish in some seriously tough spots last year. And to their credit, when they failed, they usually came back and rebounded the next time and performed really well. So here are their draft results. We got Mujid Zubar, a great player. Really like watching him. Hamza Khalid, Shuja Naqvi, and Arya Kanantha. I think I got that one right. I think I nailed that one. So let's talk about this team a little bit. They look pretty strong to me. I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here. They put up a really good fight last year, and let's see what they can do this year. Any thoughts, Aman?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you bring back Nitish Kumar. It's always a big plus for your side. You talked about the Bangish brothers. Hamza Bangish, I thought was really impressive. He came in a lot of tough spots and ended up being a top 70 player in the league last year. So I thought for him, it's just about getting into some better situations. I think he's going to put up some monster totals. I like the team. They bring a lot of it back. Johnny Khan comes back, and so to get a lot of the continuity back and then steal over Majid Zubair from the Houston Hurricanes, I think that's also another big pull for them. Yeah,
definitely. And then of course, you've got there Derval Green from Jamaica in the mix there. How about you, Obis? I know you played against this team last season, and you saw firsthand how good they are. First of all, how beautiful is this ground back here? Every time I look at the monitor, I'm like...
Can't wait to play out here at evening. It's going to be beautiful.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, just to get back to the Lone Star team, they were really impressive last year, and I think they've got some good pace bowlers up front with Deval and Suja coming from Houston Hurricanes, so that's going to be a weapon for them, I reckon, to get some wickets up front. And then they've got an explosive batting lineup with Kamran there, Janissar, Cheyenne, Nitish. So yeah, I think they're going to be one of the strongest side in the central group for sure.
Yeah, last year I believe they might have finished with the top record in the whole shebang, in the regular season. They also play their home games at Musa Stadium, which I recommend everybody tune into those. Musa really has one of the best broadcasts of any team in the league. They've got a good facility. We're going to see some USA action down there soon, but the stream and the broadcast and the camera work there was some of the best in the league. Obviously, Morrisville did a pretty good job too. But
not a toot our own horn.
Not a toot our own horn. But seriously though, Musa Stadium was one of the venues I loved watching games at last year. So everybody should tune into that. And let's move along now into the next team I'm going to talk about is the Houston Hurricanes. And we have their wild card named as Ali Shafiq, and their priority domestics are Huzaifa Ahmed Karthik Gottapelli, man, Karthik Gottapelli, what a good player he was last year for them. Ramiz Raja, everybody knows about him, comes from good stock. Ryan, let's move on to their youth, their U21s and their U19s. Ryan Bagani, Tanaf Wasi, Munib Chowdhury, and then their domestic retained players, Saklan Haidar, Ali Khan, Usman Rafiq. Now that is a triumvirate of domestic retained players there that's tough to top. We talked about New Jersey Stallions having a great trio of retained players. This right here, Saklan Haidar, Ali Khan, Usman Rafiq. Well, let's see, first of all, the big question is going to be, what's Ali Khan going to do this summer? You know, he's in high demand in the T20 circuit, in the T20 franchise circuit all around the world, and there's a reason for that. He's one of the best Yorker bowlers that there are in the shorter format game.
Ask Ireland, right? They experienced that firsthand in December.
Ask the universe boss. So, but yeah, this team looks good. Gaurav Balaji, Ninand Nimbalkar, Matthew Tromp, and Hassan Rashid are their draft picks for Houston. It'll be interesting to see who they land as their marquees. They haven't announced the 2 marquees yet. Where is there a room for improvement on this team, guys?
They're obviously going to miss Willem Ludik. I think he's not playing this season, so that's going to be massive.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
He scored a lot of important runs for them at a good strike rate last year, so
yeah,
I think
good
that's
player,
going to be massive
good with the ball too.
Good with the ball as well.
Yeah,
so that's going to be massive for them. It'll be interesting, like you said, the marquee players that Jay Mulder and Ashley Nurse, I think last year, which is both very good all-rounders. So that's going to be massive for them. I think, again, Willem's going to be massive. So they need to make sure they bring in someone who can give them runs consistently at a good run rate. Karthik, brilliant player. Probably one of my favorite young players. He's not that young anymore, but up and coming. He's not afraid to give it a bit of air, try and spin it past the batsmen, and hence that's the reason he took some wickets last year. Good fielder, good batter as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for them this season. So it'll be good to see how they go.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Karthik Gottapelli last year. Amin and I did on our show. We gave a little extra time every week to the younger players in the league. We would name a emerging player of the week. So I'm gonna rep my brand here. I really wish I had brought my emerging cricket hoodie today.
It would have been useful
because it's a lot colder here than it was supposed to be.
The emerging cricket hoodie.
Yeah, it's you know. But it's a great looking hoodie, by the way, guys. I think I'll talk about the hoodie now for a little.
Are we going to get some?
Yeah, sure. I think you guys should both get hoodies. But yeah, and also interestingly, looking up at these teams, at the last team, the Lone Star team, I don't see Laksh Parekh's name in there.
No.
That was a big miss for me, I think. I don't know what the story is. Maybe he's busy, maybe, you know, the young guys, who knows what they're doing. A lot of times school gets in the way. Well, maybe cricket gets in the way of school, but you know what I mean. It's so I don't know what the story is there for him, but he was a star for them last year. He was a fantastic player. He was emerging player of the week a couple of times.
Always in the conversation. At least once.
And he was
always
in the conversation. So. We were, you know, between him and Karthik Gottapelli, we said both of their names a lot. So, yeah, Karthik Gottapelli, great to see him. He's just going to keep going. And once again, he plays in a role that it's really tough to crack the USA team, but you got to think he's got to be on the radar the way he's played. We have a great young stock of left-arm orthodox bowlers that are young in the USA, and that's brilliant stuff there. So I'm going to move on to the Dallas Mustangs. This team, I like that they changed their name to the Dallas Mustangs. They were the Irving Mustangs. I think I like that they're now the Dallas Mustangs. What do you think, Amin?
It's a bigger metropolitan area, so it's more like when you search up Dallas sports teams, you come up, Irving a little bit smaller of a town, you have to figure out where that place is. So it is a cool change. I think also, you talk about the Dallas brands, the Mavericks, the Cowboys, you fit in there, the Mustangs. It just kind of flows, I think, really nicely off the tongue. Right,
yeah. Yeah, I think I think I like that. But let's see. They haven't named their wild card or their marquees yet. So, when the team doesn't do that, you get your imagination can take over. We got a lot of spots here where we can imagine where players can go. Obviously, then there's the free agents after all this. So let's talk about who they did name. They named the Dallas Mustangs named Corey Anderson, Sachin Kumar Asokan, who I don't believe Sachin Kumar Asokan played in the league last year. I believe that this is his first year in the league. His first year in the league. He does play a lot in Texas. A good young batter. Sujith Gowda. Oh man, this is a big ad for them. The Sujith Gowda ad for the Dallas Mustangs. And he lives in the area down there. One of the best batters in the country by far, especially as a number 3 or something around 3 or 4, probably the 3 for these guys.
Finished 17th amongst the player rankings last year with with the plus 150 player performance.
And he did it. And he did it playing most of his games against the Bay Area teams.
Yeah, he was with the East Bay Blazers last year. So
right, and we saw early in the tournament a lot of the stats were skewed because the pitch was. There weren't a lot of runs early in the tournament in the Bay Area. So to be ranked that highly, playing in that Bay Area triumvirate, coming over to Dallas, and he's going to be playing some games at Moosa now.
The tracks are much nicer,
a lot friendlier tracks. So Sujith Gowda, can't wait to watch him down there in Dallas. Ruckman Dar, USA U19 opener. Love this kid. Love watching him play. Good energy from him. Aggressive player. Really got a lot of good thoughts for him. Surya Salvakumar and Ali Sheikh. This is a great trio of young players here. This is one of the top trios of young players in the country. Obviously, Morrisville, DC's got a few. A lot of places have a lot of them. Yeah. But this particular trio here, that's fantastic. Ali Sheikh's already performing against just about everything you throw against him. He did well in the Houston Challenge as well, I thought. And then you've got the domestic retentions. These are some good ones also. This is a really strong team.
Everything is just, it looks so solid.
Yeah, you got Nosh Kenjigi, USA left arm orthodox all-rounder. I'm calling him an all-rounder. They bat him at the end of the order there, but I'm calling him an all-rounder. The way he's played with the bat the last 2 years, Nosh can save a game for a team. There's no question about it. And I didn't even mention the best thing about him, his fielding and his fitness.
Athlete. His athletic ability is unparalleled. I'm sure you saw it firsthand.
He was filling at extra cover when we played against him. He must have stopped about 20 of my runs that should have been boundaries. He's brilliant.
That's the big thing about him. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's got great hands. He stops everything, you know. I remember one game I saw him miss a ball, like probably 2019. I'm sorry, Nosh, I'm talking about bad stuff.
There's so much good stuff we can only.
That's that one time you saw him miss a ball.
I saw him. The ball went up and it was swirling, and he I don't even think he dropped it. I think he just misjudged it and didn't even touch it. And I was just like, wow, I've never seen that before. You know, it's like, it's funny when a player is really good and you, like, the one time they mess up sticks out in your mind because you're so not used to them making mistakes.
And in Moosa, that's huge for them to have a guy like that too, a big ground, you know, can run around, great fielding atmosphere. So
I love it when he comes here. I've seen him here it's been a while since he's been here. Well, actually, I think was he here in November?
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't here in November. Because, when I saw him in Houston, that was my first time I'd seen him in a while. He's also... I'm talking a lot about Nosh. He's also my youngest daughter's favorite player because she met him at the airport.
Well, there you go.
So fair enough as well.
Fair enough. That's a good reason. The Burt Cockley, fast bowler, USA strength and conditioning coach, heck of a dude, really great guy.
That should be a fit team at least, right?
Should be a fit team. This should be a fit team. It's a good team. It should be a fit team. I'm looking around and having a hard time finding someone in this team.
Yeah, Adnan bowled really well last year. Arun, good leg spinner, very good control.
Right.
So he gives them a good 4 overs every game.
Yeah.
Quick tidbit, Bert actually helped Ali Sheikh today reach his bench max of 200. On the Instagram. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a fit and a strong team.
It's great. I love watching the verticals that he does, the vertical leaps that he does. I asked him the other day, I was like, how does that pad tell? I'm like, does it just time how long it takes you to land? And he was like, yeah, that's how it works. So that's how that works. We all know now. Not
the
just
more you know.
So.
Yeah.
We'll get you to do that at some stage.
I want to try that. I want to try that. I'm going to be very disappointed in myself, I'm sure. We've got Sushant Madani as a domestic in the draft. Nasir Jamali, Petson Matthews, Joshua Tromp. This is this team, Sushant Madani.
I'm excited about him. Got to see him firsthand in Florida when they played in Ireland, and his class it's shown through immediately, especially when USA were kind of in the pits at that point. He kind of carried them out alongside Gajanan Singh, so I'm excited to see him down there.
Yeah. So it's amazing that we have now a system where people can retain players, they can pre-arrange signing players, basically making agreements with players, and then you end up with Sushant Madani in the draft. Yeah. That's like pretty stinking amazing. So that's what do you guys think about this division? We've now covered the entire Central Division. Who's your picks for the division and why? And who would you like to see added to teams, maybe as a free agent or coming in as a wild card or a marquee? Who do you think would put a team? Let's talk about interesting things like this.
Yeah. So, Obis, we'll start with you here since you played there last year.
I'll just start off with the Dallas Mustangs, since we're busy with them. They had Ryan Patel last year, if I'm not mistaken, from Canada. He opened the batting for them, and so I can see them needing probably an opening batter.
Yep.
They probably need that explosiveness up the order, but this is going to be a strong side. They've got some really consistent batters in Sujith, Corey, obviously, Sushant. So I think if they can get an explosive batter, Raymond Dar, good player. If they can get that up the order explosive batter, this is going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. The Dallas Mustangs they just jump off the page. I think Dane talked about it earlier, just the power of the names that we were reading here. You just see everything. You see just great. We talked about Nosh for a good minute here when talking about this whole team. So I think there's just so many weapons here. You look at other teams across this division, and you're looking at the team like the Houston Hurricanes. Maybe also just stand out. You talk about Ali Khan, how much he's going to be there, but the firepower with him, with Kartik Gittapalli, and if they can get a guy like Ashley Nurse back into the lineup, or they can get another one of these all-rounders back in that were really important last year, I think they'd be right back into the thick of things.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with the way the Dallas Mustangs look right now. It's so tough to overlook. I can't overlook the Lone Star Athletics, though.
Yeah.
That team just, and you look up and down that team, you're not really going to lose anybody. It's kind of a shame. International cricket creates kind of these situations that other sports in this country don't have to deal with very much. There's international windows in soccer or football, however you want to call it, and we have American sports that are so specific to American. There's not really a big international league, and if there is one, it plans itself around USA's leagues. So whereas we have cricket now, where we have 3 USA tournaments going on during the league, and the best USA players in the country are going to be, the best USA cricket guys, people who play for USA cricket, they're going to be missing for a lot of the season. That's a shame, but it's the reality that all cricket, franchise cricket, has to deal with. So this is certainly not new to American cricket. This is kind of maybe new to American sports, but So when I look at these teams, I look around to see if their star players are USA players this year, because getting to the playoffs is the tricky part.
Yep.
You can have a great team on paper right now. The hard part's getting to the playoffs. There's 26 teams. There's not a lot of playoff slots, and yeah, you got to get there before you can do anything. No matter how good you look on paper today, if you have 3 or 4 USA stars and you're going to be missing them when you can't backfill them, you're hamstrung.
100%.
So that's when I look at these teams, I like this Lone Star Athletics team. I think because everyone's going to kind of be there. I think for throughout the season.
Yeah.
Whereas the Mustangs, that team looks phenomenal, but You've got Sushant Madani, who's going to be missing. Yep. You've got Nosh Kanjigi, who's going to be missing. And then you have Bert Cockley, strength and conditioning coach. You got to think he's not going to be around.
Ali Sheikh could also get a call-up somewhere as well. Rahman Dar could miss some time. So
right. So when I look at the Mustangs, I'm thinking they absolutely have to have good wild card and marquees that they have not announced yet. And I think that otherwise the table's set for them.
Yep.
So I'd like to see them add a fast bowler and a top-order bat, personally.
Lux Butter could be a name that we see for them as well to fill out that pace bowling option.
Could see that. Anybody else? We haven't mentioned. There's some players that we haven't mentioned that were in the league last year, maybe as wild cards or marquees. Some potential free agents out there that haven't popped up yet this year. Nathan Stewart's one guy who seems to be perform wherever he goes pretty well. Brings a lot of experience. I'm interested to see if he follows in anywhere. And then even when you get to the free agents, when you talk about the free agents, they can be anybody. A lot of teams might use that on the younger players, which is a really great strategy. But they could be domestics from other parts of the country too. You just have to pay for their flight. You got to get them to the games. So we have one guy locally here who didn't make the Morrisville team, Kunal Segal, who performed pretty well last year, and didn't make that team this year. Due to the team just looks pretty solid, I guess. So, but I'd like to see if he lands someplace as a free agent, because that would be. He'd be somebody I'd be looking at if I.
Absolutely, he was a top 100 player last year, and so if you're a team in need of a bat up top the order, we talked about the Dallas Mustangs maybe needing someone up top, you could entertain that option. So he's a name that I think should get thrown around at least a couple places just in the brainstorming sessions of, do we need another top order batsman? Here's a guy who doesn't have a side. Right.
So we've talked a lot about this division. I think we're going to move on now, because we are now currently in the. Southern California draft is happening right now, I believe. It might even be wrapping up right now. Let me take a look here. So we can move straight into that. 1 second.
So obviously you played in the Central Division last year, and you've talked about these teams here, and now coming to Morrisville, what's that adjustment been like? Coming out of the Central and out here for the Morrisville team.
Yeah, of course, I had to get to know the players first of all, the environment, how and where everyone fits in, and that takes a good while. I haven't done that exactly, but luckily with Dane also new year, and the guys being really welcoming, Nate helping us, to settle in and just understand the sort of environment. So it's been really good. Maybe just to get back to that Central League, the last thing I would say is it's an interesting league in the sense of you could play on Musa Stadium, that's a really good batting wicket. Then you could play in Dallas, where it's a good artificial wicket, a lot of runs. Then you go to St. Louis, hybrid wicket, so it's different. You go to Michigan, it's a very bouncy, fast wicket there, artificial. And then again, and we played in Bolingbrook last year in Chicago, very slow turning wicket. So I think that's the interesting thing in that league. You play on loads of different wickets. So it's the team that can adapt that will also do well.
Speaking of wickets, we're here at Church Street Park. Does this place kind of remind you of places back home in South Africa?
A little bit. I would say it's anything closest to it's probably like Stellenbosch area. Okay. Probably, the trees reminds me of that. They've got a mountain in the background. We don't have the mountain here, but we've got some really high trees here. Beautiful setting. It's unique. I think it would be a beautiful ground anywhere in the world. So we're lucky to call this our home ground.
Absolutely, and you can see the sights, the lights coming down, the sky kind of turning dark. It's just it's a beautiful place to be right now.
And the darker it gets out here, the more I glow and radiate over here on the left of your screen. But ginger problems, But yeah, it's a great ground. You were talking about all the different surfaces that you have to play on in the USA. You really do have to play on a ton of different surfaces. It's really complicated. But even on the turf side of things, we have different turf in California. We have a little bit different turf in Houston. We have different turf here. It's not going to all be the same. Especially because more so, less than the turf, more so the environmental conditions. So I saw. When I was down at the Houston Challenge, I couldn't believe how windy it was. I could not believe it. You see it on the TV, everyone talks about it, but when you're there, you can't understand it until you're there in person. You just can't really fathom how windy a cricket ground could be. It's crazy. The wind tired me out more than the sun did.
Yeah.
Similar experience for you?
Yeah, and looking back, when I was in South Africa, I'm a big golf fan, so I watched a lot of golf, and they speak about Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, guys that come from Texas. They're good wind players, and I definitely understand what they mean. Every time I play there, the wind's just, it's an open field, the wind's pumping, so there's always, a lot of tactics that come into it, short boundary, using the wind. What end the bowlers have to bowl from, so that's really interesting.
I think creative types of batsmen that have so many different tricks in their bag, I think they tend to do a little bit better there. Guys like Marty Kane, who can play it to 360 degrees, are good at using the wind. things like that. And I think that really comes to play a lot in Houston, at least at PBCC. I haven't been to Moosa yet. So I don't know. I don't think the wind can possibly be as strong there.
No, it's a little bit more protected, so I think that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll see. But Moosa's I'm looking forward to the USA games there. Moosa's a good batting pitcher. It has been at least for the last few years. And also there's some wind out there in the Bay Area too. So that definitely comes into play. On those grounds. And they've got the hybrid wicket that they've worked on out there, and they're bringing that to Houston too. Maybe we'll see a hybrid wicket here near Church Street Park.
Potentially.
It's I think it's an excellent solution for when you still have to roll a hybrid pitch.
Yeah.
But you don't have to give it the same amount of care that you would a fully turf pitch.
Oh yeah.
So
talk about the curators for a second. They've been here for the past couple of days. I've driven by at 8 in the morning to 7 p.m. They're just out there watering, taking care of it. So there's a lot of things that go on, and just quick shout out to all the people who maintain these wickets because they're great to play on.
Yeah, definitely, and it's only going to get better all around the country. So let's move along into the to the west, where we have the the Southern California part of the draft is going on right now, and we have a couple of, we have one non-draft team in the Seattle Thunderbolts. A good friend of yours, Andres House, plays for the Seattle Thunderbolts. Let's talk about that team for a little while. I'm really curious to see what's changed with Seattle. They were a fun team to watch last. They were a little bit top-heavy last season, but as the season went on, they had some players start to come up and take shape as performers and contributors. One of those was Jagrup Raina, I believe, the under 21. He opened for them and came through a few times later on in the season. He's staying on the team. Rohan Pasanapalli. This is a really big news.
Yes.
Here. Rohan Pasanapalli. I wish we had like a siren graphic or something. We need to work on a siren graphic. Rohan Pasanapalli going to Seattle. Huge news. Probably the fastest under 19, or one of the fastest, probably the fastest under 19 bowler in the country.
Definitely up there for sure.
I saw he cut his hair too.
Yeah, he did cut his hair.
Yeah, so
short hair don't care. They say short hair don't care.
Johnny Khan all by himself. Yeah.
But Rohan just electric. When he comes into bowl, he runs in with a full head of steam, and the ball just finds extra life off of the wicket just with the pace that he has. And at 19 years old, it's pretty impressive. So for the Seattle Thunderbolts to steal him away from the East Bay Blazers, didn't have the greatest of years in year one, but we know what he can be in a couple years' time.
Right. And Sahil Kancherla, another good young player, is one of their Unite teams. So. Yeah, they look good in the youth department this year. It's excellent to see that. Aditya Chauhan is one of the domestics. Akhilesh Reddy. Oh,
they stole him away too.
Yeah, they stole him. Akhilesh Reddy Badagam.
From the Atlanta Fire.
From Atlanta Fire. He was one of their twin towers. Well, not twin towers, but you know what I mean. Like twins. The youth twins that did really well last year.
Yeah, top 100 player in the league last year. So when I saw his name, that was really, that was shocking to me to see Fire let him go into Seattle. Good on them for picking that one up.
So they've gotten deeper already. We've only gotten halfway through their team. So we've got Damien Kumara, Amanugama. I think I said that right.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
You hit it.
Hold on. There's he's
Amanugama. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. I'm doing my best here. I'm sure we'll get you right one day on the show. I'll make a point to do so. Harmeet Singh. This is one of the reasons why I had a hard time pronouncing that name. I saw Harmeet Singh right underneath.
Just a little too excited.
Got all excited about Harmeet Singh. Now, for my money, he's one of the top spinners in the country. He seems. I don't know. First of all, he can also rake. He can hit the ball. He can score. I loved watching him play down in.
I'm glad you clarified that because I was like rig.
Rake?
I was like,
the first time I heard him say rake, I was like, what is that too?
It's a baseball term. I can't get it out of me.
He's educating all of us on another rake.
I'm gonna rig now.
Exactly, gonna rake.
So Harmeet Singh, one of the best spin pitchers.
Oh wow!
It's like stretch. I don't know if
good curveball, great curveball. He can rake. He can go yard. So, but yeah, I like Harmeet Singh. Manoj Parwa.
Top 50 player, sorry, didn't mean
The
to cut
top
you off,
50
but top
player,
50
man.
player last year.
There's no question about it. Manoj Panwar, Pradeep Modi, Rahul Singh, Rishi Bardwaj. That's a good one there.
Yeah.
Satyavinka Simhardi and Shadley Van Skalkwy. What a great player he is. He is a what I
Shadley
would.
Van Skalkwyk.
I've been saying his name wrong.
Skalkwyk. Skalkwyk.
I actually
getting there.
have said it right before in the
Yeah,
past.
that Skalk is getting there.
Yeah, I have said it right in the past. It's tough.
It's not an easy one. I'll give that to you.
Every
country is so different. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and his last name is representative, a good representation of the alphabet. A good representation of the spread of the alphabet. But yeah, Shadley Van Skalkwyk. I think he's what I would call like a cricketer. I think he does everything pretty well. I love watching him bat. I love watching him bowl, and I really enjoyed watching him down in Houston Challenge too. Great guy too.
He's probably the world's nicest man, to be fair. What a nice guy.
He's a fantastic guy.
Yeah.
He's absolutely great.
And to go off your baseball terms, a left-handed slugger for the Seattle Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, you get him and Ludick, and you get Calvin Savage in the same room. Yeah. You've just depleted all the niceness in the rest of the world and concentrated it into one place. Yeah, and the Earth's going to spin off its axis. But, yeah, so the Shadley wraps up that team. That team, to me, this team might be the most improved team on paper in the league. Great job, Andres. I know that he's been out there, trying to improve his team. I think they look a lot better to me. They've added a lot of depth, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's definitely going to be the most, or a very good chance of being the most improved team. You've got basically 6 players on this house, Shadley and Armit, because they're such good all-rounders. And then if you add another like Akalesh, really good addition, and a couple of youngsters, I think they'll be a strong team in that region this year.
100%. Again, it's just the depth that they were able to add. Last year, if a couple guys didn't click, the whole thing was done. This year, you're getting more pieces for it. That's all. The only thing you can ask for when you have more pieces who can step up and play to the situation. I think that's what they've been able to do this year.
Yeah, this is first of all, this whole division is very exciting. There's a lot of good teams in this division, South, North. Lots of good teams in this division. But so yeah, I've named the Seattle Thunderbolts. We could sit here and talk about them all day. We're excited about them, but we're going to move on to Southern California, where the draft is going on right now. Let me take a look at these teams. Have we gotten all the results yet from this draft?
I believe we have.
Well, let me talk about the Hollywood Master Blasters.
Let's do it.
And they have not yet named a marquee. They have not yet named a wild card.
Yep.
Their marquees are Cody Chetty, Basant Regmi, Mrunal Patel, Ravi Timbawala is. Oh, sorry, I already named their two marquees, Cody Chetty, Basant Regmi. Their priority domestics are Mrunal Patel, Ravi Timbawala, and Tamil Patel. Those are pretty good guys. All of them. We know Tamil Patel because he's, I believe, at least he was. He might still be leading wicket taker in U.S. cricket history. Ajay Amadi. Loved watching Ajay Amadi, U21 from California. Loved watching him play in the U19 Nationals last year. Really creative batter, I thought.
Really fun to watch.
Yeah, loads of fun to watch. That's good. That's a good job. Andrew Dulwet and Ayan Desai wrap up their U21s and U19s. So then we go to their domestic retained players, and this looks like a good group too. Nisarg Patel, USA left arm orthodox spinner, always economical, takes wickets, and he can score quickly. He for a time held the record for USA fastest 50 in ODI. Kanishka Chugai and Vinakalyan Matareddy wrap out their domestic retainers.
Yep.
And they have drafted 4 players: Hamad Shahid, Brindley Richards, Evan.
You want to go to shot?
Ghana. Ghana.
That's a great guess.
It. And yeah, that's what we've got right now.
And then Dylan Rantuga.
Dylan Rantuga.
Yeah.
Okay, Dylan Rantuga. Okay, great. So that wraps up the Hollywood Master Blasters. This team looks pretty solid to me. I gotta say. Let's see who they name as their wild card. I'm trying to think what I would pick up if I were them for a wild card. Maybe top order bat or something like that.
I think every team could use a top order bat. You can never have too many of those. Too many guys
bats.
who can slug up at the top. Maybe another pace bowler to come in and do something alongside.
Just an all-rounder, big
there you go.
Left-handed batter that can hit and ball.
Just bring in the best player in the world.
Just bring in Ben Stokes. You know why not?
Ben Stokes, wild card.
Yeah, I think he'll have a little bit of success in
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Find a spot for him.
Love it. Yeah, I think so.
He looks like a Hollywood star.
Hollywood.
So exactly. I think it's perfect. I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's perfect. So let's go down. And talk about the next up. Let me see. Who did I listed these in an order.
The SoCal Lashings.
We'll talk about SoCal Lashings next, okay? So we've got, they didn't name their wild card or their marquees. So, like I said, good and bad. I think it's a little
bad
bit
for us, good for them.
Yeah, really
well,
bad for us. Give us something
maybe
to talk
bad
about.
for them, good for us. Gives us something to talk. Well, we can talk about what ifs.
Speculations.
There you go.
Speculate.
There you
right,
go.
exactly. We've already thrown.
See, he's a half glass half full kind of guy.
Full, definitely. Yeah,
Sometimes.
I prefer to see something on there.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not quite Marty Kane optimist.
Oh, yeah, I doubt you can get there.
I don't think so. I don't wake up at 4 a.m. I can't.
Well, if you live where he lives, I think it's a little bit easier. Get out on the surf.
Yeah, but yeah, true. But the sun rises over on this side. Well, actually, maybe he just keeps the Eastern time. Maybe that's how he does it. It's 7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock. Yeah, it's 7.
So let's get to the SoCal Lashings. No wild card, no marquees. Priority domestic is Sandhu, Harman Sandhir, Mohammad Zaid, Taha Jamal, Skanda Rohit Sharma, USA U19 selection camp. Great player. Akashvar Singh. He performed quite well for the SoCal Lashings last season as an off spinner. Harpreet Singh, good domestic retention there. Harpreet Singh performed quite well last year. Elmore Hutchinson, we all know Elmore. He's just a gem of a guy, gem of a player. I could talk about Elmore Hutchinson for 5 minutes here if I wanted to, which is I'll save that in case that we have to. Iftikhar Ahmed is their last domestic retention, and their draft picks so far: Guyan Fernando and Viraj Patel. Guyan Fernando, good bowler, pretty good fast bowler. So. Yeah, what do you think about this team? I think I like Harpreet Singh, obviously, Akashvar Singh, Skanda Rohit Sharma. What do you guys think about this side?
I'm gonna be biased to the youth, right? Skanda Rohit Sharma, he's a class act as a batsman. Can come and really pound the ball. I think he plays to his namesake of Rohit Sharma. He plays a lot like that. And then Akashvar was really good with the as an off spinner. Has a little bit of unorthodox action. It looks a little bit weird the first time you see it, but he produced a lot for them and was a big part of their late push late in the season last year. So to have those two back, I think is big for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw, like you said, Skanda Rohit Sharma, Akashvar Singh performed quite well. Harpreet. Let me check where he was ranked last year. I know he was ranked pretty good. I'm pretty sure.
And then don't forget about Elmore Hutchinson, who had maybe the most iconic moment of last year's minor league with the up, and away comment at the com box with that 6 that he hit straight back.
Yeah, that was a good early moment. That was, I think, the last game of the weekend in the first week.
Yep.
I think it was. And Jimmy Anclasario with the call on that. We had a great time with that call. Harpreet Singh, number 11 ranked player in the league last season for them in terms of the above replacement advanced stats. So, and he did that in 9 innings. Very good player. I think he was a domestic last year. I think he might have been the highest ranked domestic last season, maybe. No, he was one of the highest ranked domestics. So I think Ryan Scott was a domestic last year. Yeah, I think he might have been the highest ranked domestic, Ryan Scott. So yeah, we don't see so far we don't see Christopher Barnwell on any of these teams.
That's a big shocker to me. Again, when you talk about what he did to the Empire State side, they struggled early, then turned the captaincy over to him, and then things just kind of flipped. And again, that can be form, this, that, and the other, but to not see him on a team, he scored 100 here at Church Street Park. May hit a cop car as well when he scored that 100 as well. We saw that, then have a couple pictures of that. So to see him not on the squad is kind of interesting, and I need to know why.
And that cop had body armor all over himself, remember? He had like knee pads, he had elbow pads. He didn't have those things on his car though. So
he needed some protection on the car. He needed a bumper car.
Right. I guess he probably has insurance. I guess you can't really insure your internal organs and stuff, but like you can insure your car. So priorities right there. But yeah, we're missing Trayvon Griffith as well so far. We haven't called his name out. That's interesting to me. So we'll see Jonathan Fu. We haven't called Jonathan Fu's name yet. I'd like to see one of these teams pick him up.
Naveen Stewart, another name that you mentioned.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of Canadians all of a sudden. So they're going to have to come in. I believe the Canadians are going to have to come in as wild cards. So we'll see if we have Saad bin Safar, Nicholas Curtin comes into one of these teams as a wild card, which I think would be a great choice. Saad bin Safar, especially, he's a threat on both sides of the ball. So yeah, well, let's take a look at the very next team now. We're moving along in the West, and in the South part of the West Division. We're going to talk now about the San Diego Surf Riders. Greg Hay. They bring in Greg Hay as a wild card player, New Zealander. Pretty darn good player. I think he's in his mid-30s. I think he's 35 or 36 years old, something like that. Harish Kakani, Nikhil Duda, Canadian. They bring him in. Vedant Jain, Marty Kane, obviously a leader on that team.
All aboard the Kane train.
I'm all aboard the Kane train, man. Like, dude, I've always liked Marty Kane, you know, but meeting him in person, I don't know how you could dislike that guy.
I was about to say, it's impossible to not to like Marty Kane.
It's impossible. Like, I tried my best.
You went half glass empty in that occasion. You know? No. You said, I'm on a mission to make this happen.
Right, yeah.
It's not going to happen, Marty.
I'm not going to like you, Marty. Nope. Can't. I actually want to go. I want to fly out there, take some lessons. I don't want to do it at 5 in the morning. But
maybe that's where the nicest comes from. On the ocean at 5 in the morning. Maybe that's where all the
we got to do
flows.
A road show.
I reckon that helps, eh?
Right?
Yeah, I think so. It's San Diego. I mean, how can you not be happy in San Diego?
I've never been there, so I've just heard about it.
Yeah, everybody says it's great. I've never been there either.
I'm just waiting for the invite from Marty. Some good golf courses around there.
So someone clip this and send this to Marty, just DM him.
The three of us. See, you're lucky that you were here. Cool. Yeah, Dane's not here right now. You're here. The three of us, we get invited. We fly out. We do a road show there, play golf.
And we surf.
And, you know,
attempt to surf. Oh, yeah. Attempt to surf. I think that's a better term.
I don't think I'm going to surf. I don't think I'll do the surf.
I'll swim in the ocean with the board hanging off of me. That's what I'll do.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll just cheer for you guys. Then we got Sri Krishna, another priority domestic, another good player. Adi Gorawara is a U21. Adnish Tundali, retained U21. And Devam Srivastava. I like that name, Srivastava. Is a U19. Domestics are Abhinay Reddy and Jaideep Reddy, and also Khalid Zadran and Samson Bhatti. Samson Bhatti, that's the name I've heard around. Sukhwant Sekhan is their draft pick so far. So let's see. Let me refresh this. Maybe. Oh. Hold on.
Well, as he refreshes it, we'll give you the last two names that did come up on the board. Zubair Murad and then Ajay Sharma were the final two draft picks from the San Diego Surf Riders.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You could have just sat. It would have been mean for you to just sit there and be like,
Well, I would have enjoyed it, to be fair.
It's been a cool moment, right? Just sit there.
Put him under pressure.
Come on, Nate. Come on, tell us. But Jaideep Reddy, you brought up his name. Only played, I think, only a couple matches. Only got one innings to bowl. So I'm interested to see what obviously they retained him for a reason. They like what he is in the net. So I'm curious to see what he can bring. Didn't bowl bad, didn't bowl good. You can't really tell from one innings of bowling what a player is. So I'm curious to see what he can bring in this second rendition.
Well, for some reason I can't connect to the Wi-Fi anymore, so I'm doing the old hotspot right now. Hopefully that works out. But you might have to lead us through the rest of it, my man.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and do that.
Let me 1 second here. We talked about so we talked about the SoCal teams. Are we all caught up on the draft there with the Southern California? All right.
Sir.
Well, our next bit is going to be some pre-recorded stuff with Aman and Jay Elhans of the DC area. He's a commentator. He comes here from time to time. He's a great kid. He absorbs this stuff, and he just lives and breathes cricket. So let's give him some space on our program, and everybody enjoy watching Jay while we wait for the North results. We're getting there. My next guest is none other than Emerging Cricket's original Swiss Army knife, Dan Beswick. Dan, thanks for joining me on the Minor League Cricket Draft Day Live program.
Hey, Nate, how's it going? Good to talk American cricket with you. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's we're no strangers to recording things together. I've been on the Emerging Cricket podcast, our flagship product for Emerging Cricket here, and
Hi, my name is PJ. I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa. I've been living in the United States now for 10 years. I'm currently in the Houston area. I'm a big fan of minor league cricket. I don't want to say that I really have a favorite team. I'm just a big fan of the league. It's just an amazing initiative from minor and major league cricket and USA cricket. Great partnership. It's an amazing initiative to be able to wake up on a Saturday or Sunday morning, go onto YouTube and watch 10 games live concurrently from around the country. It's just an amazing feat. I've been fortunate to watch a few games down here the road from me in Houston. I used to play a bit of cricket in America. I used to umpire a little bit, but now I'm just a fan. Minor league cricket is awesome. Good luck to everybody in the draft, and yeah, we'll see you on the field this year.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I hope you're enjoying our draft coverage live from Church Street Park. I'm here with a man who's visited Church Street Park on a couple of occasions, and we love it when he's at Church Street Park. It's Jay Elhans. Jay, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm really excited you got to sit here and talk with me today because for those of you who don't know Jay, he's a high school student, just turned, 15 years of age, and he is going to be a commentator in year 2 of minor league cricket. He was a commentator in year 1 for the DC Hawks, came down to Church Street a couple of times to do some Cardinals games, do some of the playoff games as well before we had the championship here. Jay, at such a young age, how did you find a way to just jump into this whole commentator experience?
Well, for me, I had my own radio show, which I started about a year or so before minor league started. And after that, when minor league really did start, I reached out to the DC Hawks team and asked if I could commentate in their home games, because there were 5 games being played here at the Hawks home ground. And they said, yeah, they'd love to have me. And so after that, commentating in those games, and then down to Morrisville after that. So it's really been great, just reaching out to the team, and then it's been great commentating the games then.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Again, I know you're now 15, but it was 14 years old. You're 14 years old when all this really just kind of broke through. It's got to be a really incredible feeling. I want to ask you about, when you're commentating these minor league games, are there, it's a pretty new league, right? Is there challenges kind of when you're seeing guys you may have not even heard about, when they're coming from Atlanta or Morrisville or anywhere, you don't really know who these guys are. How do you face that kind of challenge when you're out there commentating?
So for me, what I actually did is that before the games, I'd just have a look at those players, some previous games that they've played, and just have a look at that. So I've got some basic data about them, really some basic knowledge about them, which I can then use to commentate. And then, actually seeing them play, you gain even more knowledge about that player. And so I just feel the more games you watch them play, the more games you commentate in, you can really start to gain more knowledge. But Something which I really did was look at the players, take notes about them before the games, beforehand. And so when you're going into the game and you're commentating on it, you really, I feel, prepared to really commentate well. Yeah.
Yeah, and Jay's one of the most prepared guys you'll ever meet. I remember the first time I met him in Morrisville at Churchill Park, we were set to commentate a game together, and he had just all these stats pulled up on all these players. So I kind of felt a similar experience as well. You know, having the kind of looking at the stats was very helpful and things like that. I think it's so cool. You know, of course, I'm doing this now here at 18, almost 19 years old, but, you know, to see someone 14, 15 kind of taking that initiative is pretty awesome as well. I want to ask you, what do you think season 2 kind of entails for you, or maybe the DC Hawks in general? Like, what do you see season 2 kind of being for JL Hans?
Well, hopefully an even better season. I'm looking forward to really commentating in more games. The DC Hawks ones, of course, here at the home ground, and then in Morrisville as well. So yeah, really commentating in more games, getting to meet new people, whether that be just commentators, fellow broadcasters, players, and overall just a great summer, because that's really what minor league does bring. It's a great summer, action-packed cricket, and yeah, just looking forward to it.
Action-packed indeed, and it should be an absolutely fantastic summer. And again, hopefully you can come down here. We'd love to get you back on some comms. Jay, I also, want to ask you, was last year commentating there, how has it even kind of helped you kind of take another step or gain some more confidence? How has this past season really taught you what it means to be a commentator, and what kind of lessons are you taking into season 2?
Well, for me, it's been huge, really, because I hadn't really commentated in games before this. I mean, I had my radio show. I talked about cricket. I loved cricket, but really commentating in games was a new experience. And really, you get to gain these skills really on how you want to commentate, because it's different from just traditionally talking about it when you're live, actually saying what's happening. And so I feel just over the season, the Hawks games, I was the only commentator, but really down in Morrisville there, where you've got guys, yourself, Nate. So really learning from the experts, it's been great, and just picking up things where you can.
I don't know about experts. We're all just trying to get by, and again, I think it's a learning curve for all of us, right? Trying to figure out how we do this by ourselves, because really we haven't seen a lot of live stream games in the United States. They're just coming about, and then trying to figure out how to do it with the team. I think we all bring our own styles, and trying to figure out how to work together was a really cool experience. And I think in season 2, first time we ever commentated, I asked you this first question, right? I was like, what's your kind of style? And we were trying to figure each other out the first way we went. And I think now in season 2, we're going to see a lot more of this meshing kind of go from ball one. It kind of just feels more natural. And again, I think that's the beauty of minor league, but not only with the players, but with commentators like yourself, like myself, plenty of others across the United States. We get to go out there, again, work on our craft, but also build some other strengths, learn some new things. And I think that's one of the coolest things that minor league has done.
Yeah, it's really connected the entire cricket community here in the US, because previously you just had these little communities, right? Like you have a league in DC, a league in Morrisville, but now it's connected it across the US, and the best of players are now up against each other. Then you've got fans, commentators, really getting to meet each other, and getting to socialize with other cricket fans from across the US, which is just so great.
It's so great. I do want to ask you this, because I think it's a cool question to ask. What was kind of your favorite moment last year? You were on comms, or you were just, you were there at the game, or you were on comms, and what was kind of your favorite moment from last year that just sticks out? You're saying, man, if I could relive that moment over again, that'd be pretty fantastic.
Well, there were quite a few. It was an action-packed. It was a great season. I think commentating at the Morrisville facility, I feel, with the stadium, that was a great experience. I still remember that 1-6 which Bhaskar Yadaram hit. That went way over us, way over the commentary box, and then into the tennis courts. behind Church Street Park, next to Church Street Park. And so that's one thing which is still fresh in my memory. But also at the championship, at the finals weekend, there were like, I think, 2,000-3,000 people there. That entire atmosphere, that entire environment there. And then, yeah, at the finals, I mean, I got the opportunity to be in the commentary box, really have a look at these guys commentating in the finals, right? You had the likes of Colin Croft and Nikhil as well there, among many others, and it was just such a great experience. And then after the finals, you know, everyone on the field, you've got players here you can meet, and overall, that finals day, that finals weekend really was one thing which was just amazing.
Absolutely, and to hear also Barry Wilkinson and Julia Price in the comm box was also fantastic, alongside Nick Hill, and just some great commentators, some great moments. The Bhaskar Yadram 6 was unbelievable. We had a 6 that, you know, we had some flirtations with the police with cricket balls as well. I'm sure you remember that one. So plenty of stuff that went on, and we're looking forward to a great second rendition of minor league cricket. Jay, thank you so much for hopping on, and we wish you all the best here in season 2.
Yeah, thank you. It was great chatting with you.
Welcome back. It's starting to rain pretty good. As you can see the rain coming down on the screen. It's starting to rain down pretty good. The west-north zone, I think, is just about wrapped up in their draft. But we are going to kind of move things into a more covered area. I'm getting rained on right now as it is. So I'm going to cut you to a pre-recorded segment that I did with my good friend Daniel Beswick of Emerging Cricket. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about what emerging cricket is, and you know, why we're so passionate about cricket in countries where, you know, associate countries and things like that. So please stay tuned and enjoy this segment. My next guest is none other than Emerging Cricket's original Swiss Army knife, Dan Beswick. Dan, thanks for joining me on the Minor League Cricket Draft Day Live program.
Hey Nate, how's it going? Good to talk American cricket with you. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, it's we're no strangers to recording things together. I've been on the Emerging Cricket podcast, our flagship product for emerging cricket here, and we've talked a few times on that, and it's always a great time chatting with you about cricket anywhere in the world, especially American cricket.
I mean, if I'm the Swiss Army knife, you've just shown your emerging cricket designed T-shirt that we need to definitely centralize and get out worldwide. It's good to see. I was caught up with the John Boy video the other day, Nate, and it just to have that representation at a John Boy event. You know, the collaboration cricket fans didn't know they needed, I think, was the tagline for when we reshared that video the other day. So if anyone hasn't seen it, a little plug for that. But yeah, again, to bring it back, I mean, from an emerging cricket standpoint, having yourself in the States and other people so keen about American cricket, and then for us from the outside looking in, I think it's definitely a watershed moment, I think, between the minor league draft going on as we speak and all the cricket around that, centers being built. Talked about Los Angeles last week in KKR's investment, Moose hosting League 2 fixtures. Again, I mean, if all the pieces are put together properly, I mean, American cricket could see a sort of revolution in the next few years.
Oh, no question. I mean, I think, you know, they'd have to drop the ball pretty bad for that not to happen. But, you know, I don't want to jinx anything either. So you said, you know, looking at the USA from outside, from down there in Australia, is there any buzz down there in the cricketing community about Major League Cricket, about minor league cricket? What are you hearing on the streets?
I think there's been a slight shift in focus. I think from an Australian point of view, not necessarily an emerging cricket point of view, there's been, I think, in Australia, we kind of have this almost inferiority complex with the US in some situations where if anything ever good comes from sporting moments or anything here, once it's picked up in American media, we find it a huge deal. And I think on the opposite end of that, American cricket and Australia's imagination towards it, I think in the past it's been somewhat outdated. They've heard stories of the Lilies and the Chapels heading over to the States and trying to teach cricket in communities. And I think now there's a slight change in discourse, primarily because, there are a couple of Australians actually making significant impacts in American cricket. Julia Price captaining the USA women's
Absolutely.
team is a testament to that. But the likes of Aveen Holland, Cameron Gannon, I was about to say Brendan Doggett, Cameron Gannon, involved in USA cricket as well. So there is a slight shift in how people are looking into USA cricket. And I think from the outside, people understand that there's a big audience in American cricket. There's not only the diaspora, but there is a gained attraction, a gained interest in the sport of cricket. And then the likes of minor league and major league cricket is starting to sort of seep through. The first sort of building blocks, I think, have been put together. The USA being a one-day international team as well, competing in League Two, garner some sort of attention. But yeah, I think there is a shift in focus. I think in the mid 2000s, Australia took on USA in a Champions Trophy match, and I think people kind of saw that rather trivially, if trivially is a word, rather in a trivial fashion, I should probably say. I think now that there's a slight shift in focus, and I think if the noise continues from an American standpoint, and again, everything kind of ties into each other from a league standpoint, from a national team standpoint, and all the communities sort of build in and buy into the same concept that USA cricket wants to push, then I think that only bodes well for its attention outside of the US as well.
Right. And then, of course, that's where John Boy comes in. He's got a large American audience. His discovery of the sport over the last year has really, excited a lot of, non-American cricket fans, or not a lot of existing cricket fans in general. I think it's something we've always talked about. Like, if somebody like John Boy can take to the sport, imagine what it can do for the sport in the USA. And that's absolutely true. So that coming to a head right with Major League Cricket around the corner, with minor league cricket right here, right now, it's it's all very optimistic in my mind. And then obviously the Cricket World Cup, the T20 Cricket World Cup in 2024. All these things are great, and it's very exciting. So it's cool to me when I talk to cricket fans from outside of the USA. They are very curious about, at least the ones I talk to, about Major League Cricket. Of course, I talk to a lot of people who are curious about associate cricket, thanks to you guys from all over the world. And so those people are going to tend to be more curious about what we do domestically as well. But it's a very exciting time here. I'm loving every second of it, to be honest. And since I joined up with Emerging Cricket, which was the summer of 2020, I needed something to do because there was nothing going on.
There's plenty of stuff to do here. I can tell you that for free, Nate.
I sure found
We've
something.
kept you busy.
I sure found something to do. And if you don't like sleeping, this is the thing to do for you. This is the thing to do. Recording podcasts at 4 a.m. This is the spot. But Dan, let's talk a little bit about what you do in the cricket world outside of Emerging Cricket. Obviously, Emerging Cricket, the most important part of what you do. But let's tell me about your last year or so in cricket around the world and what roles you've had.
It's been a busy year. I was saying I think on the podcast we recorded last week, I think worked out from early December to the start of April, I slept in my own bed a total of about 12 days, just with the travel and being around it at certain events across 2 jobs, working as a statistician for one of the networks here in Australia that has the rights to the BBL and the WBBL, and providing stats and information for commentators and other talent. And that sort of takes up a lot of my time during the summer. And then working with a digital company whose one of their biggest clients is the International Cricket Council. So helping out in terms of their content writing, long form writing, news writing, other sort of content production, social media, other bits and pieces. And that's sort of my 9 to 5 at the moment, which is great, to be able to say in any media sphere, having a full-time job in sport and in sports media, they don't they don't come very often. So
sure.
Once you get in there, you don't really want to jet out. And there's a bit of a change of focus in the way that the ICC want to do things from a editorial standpoint and how they want to portray themselves. They definitely want to be a source of not only the official media releases and other important bits of information from the governing body. They want to be a place where people go for news, for people to be updated, to check scores. I know for me personally, if I'm going to check a score, the first place I would normally check is somewhere like Cricinfo, which has always been a hub of those sort of things. But the ICC is intending to move that attention towards their website and then in turn create a sort of a holistic media approach to how they want to go. And then, when there's no other time for me to do anything, there's emerging cricket. And for us, I think at emerging cricket, I think the big thing the reason why we started was to provide a voice to the often voiceless. And that started from associate cricket for a long time has been notoriously undercovered. And what keeps me, what helps me sleep at night when working on ICC projects is knowing that I have a pretty holistic view of how international cricket runs and the associate members that feed all into that. But what happens is, from an ICC standpoint, you have to sort of generalize. But with emerging cricket, what we can do is we can go really deep into some of the human stories, because I think that's what it ultimately comes back to. There are a number of people that we've interviewed, and you're an example of this, Nate, involved in cricket in a certain way. You've been introduced to cricket in a certain way, and the story is always of a human interest. I'm thinking of examples of Anuradha Doddabalapal for Germany, for example. She's playing international cricket for Germany while she's studying and working in science. And that human story, I think, is something that a lot of people can relate to and is relevant to. So I think some of the stories around the emerging cricket world and the USA is prime content for that as well. Think of the likes of Lisa Ramjit, Geetika Kodali from an American standpoint, to other people who have immigrated to the US. That's their new home, and they have this love of cricket, and there are these flourishing communities of cricket in this space. I think from an emerging standpoint, it was really important for us to just show how diverse cricket is around the world. I mean, in the early 1900s, Argentina was a hotbed of international of cricket. And stories like that are completely thrown out the window because, unfortunately, the way that cricket discourse has worked over time and in over the course of history is that it's been written by the winners. It's been written in a very colonial way. So once you go out and you find the Rwandas and other stories similar to that, Nepal is a sleeping giant of international cricket. And one thing that we continue to harp on about is just how crazy and how fanatical 30 million people can be when they're not a full member of the ICC. They're the stories that we're passionate about. Things like Mongolia, starting cricket in Mongolia, when one man visited his partner whilst she was studying in Australia, discovering cricket, all of a sudden going to international cricket and taking it back to Mongolia. And even someone like Peter Della Penna, who we know very well, Nate, one of Cricinfo's greatest writers, how he was exposed to cricket. I mean, people would wonder, how did an American guy from New Jersey studying in Australia just discover and fall in love with this game? And then as a result of that, being one of the great media exponents of it, because he comes from an outside perspective. He has this new fresh take on ideas. And I think for an emerging cricket standpoint, we can take a lot of lessons on how cricket is looked at and run by people outside of what is perceived to be strangleholds of international cricket, because it's all about cricket's all about who plays it, not what it is and what it kind of how it impacts people. That's a huge part of it as well. But how people kind of interact with it and how they kind of take it, because cricket's been very malleable. We've got 3 international formats. It's just a peak example of that. So how people interact with cricket and how it helps in terms of social situations, in human situations, that's a big thing that we're keen on. And then from your side of things, looking at how USA cricket is building and the building blocks that have been put together between USA cricket the minor league and Major League Cricket, it's an exciting thing from our perspective because it could unlock all the potential that USA Cricket has. I think over time, one of the big issues has been that parts of USA Cricket have fought with each other in trying to be the alpha dog, whereas this is very much a case of this is what the governing body has to do or wants to do. It's now a case of everyone in American cricket combining to provide this and everyone teaming up rather than fighting each other, trying to be the top dog. And yeah, to bring it back to emerging cricket circles, that's sort of what emerging cricket's all about, right? Combining and being greater than the sum of our parts in delivering cricket coverage, cricket exposure to everywhere around the world and not just within its full member circle.
Right. And you mentioned Peter Della Penna and you were talking about all the stories about the players, what they all have to go through at the associate level. Peter's got an excellent podcast or video podcast on YouTube. I think everybody should go to Peter Della Penna's YouTube and check it out. The Stars and Stripes podcast. It's excellent. He goes into very long interviews with people all around the country who have something to do with cricket. Recently did Sindhu Sri Harsha, the USA captain, who's involved in the fair break, and how she's a mother, and how she's managed to navigate cricket and fit it into her life, and some great stories there. I recommend that everybody tune into that.
So welcome back. You might have noticed that we changed ends here. Like we're all bowlers here. We bowl a little bit, so we changed ends because the rain is not allowing us to. It was bad, guys. The rain was getting bad. Nate was getting soaking wet back there, so we said let's save us and him. And now we're going to talk about the Northwest in the Western. So maybe kind of similar rain in the Northwest of the Western region. And we can start off with the East Bay Blazers. And with the East Bay Blazers, the first name just made Nate go crazy. We had Carmi LaRue, who comes in, Angelo Pereira, David White. So it's a very strong top three there. Though Carmi and Angelo were your marquees as your priority domestics. David White, Arshdeep Brar, Navanpreet Singh Brar. Your retained domestics are Rusty Theran. So that combination of Carmi and Rusty, that's a great combination to have. Nawaz Khan as another domestic retention. The under-19, the big one, of course, Sanjay Krishnamurthy, who was blasting away in last year's edition of the MiLC rather. And then in the under-21 category, Saideep Ganesh, and the under-19, Arnav Iyer fills that spot. The domestic players, Abhishek Pardekar, who had a really good season last year, David Bunn, Param Penasar, Gurprakash Carrera, and Srinivas Mohan round out the domestic side. So a pretty good-looking team here out of the West.
Yeah, I think so. Carmi LaRue is a big grab for them, especially as they'll be missing Rusty Theran with USA duties. We would hope USA is going to utilize Rusty Theran. But yeah, I like that. Angelo Pereira, former Sri Lankan white ball cricketer. But yeah, I think I love the way Carmi bowls. He was fantastic in the Houston Challenge. You can just ask Sai Mukamala about how dangerous he can be. But yeah, I like this team pretty well. Arnav Iyer, good young player. Sanjay Krishnamurthy, Saideep Ganesh. Saideep has performed pretty well. Sanjay Krishnamurthy is one of the top young players in the country, easily one of the top 5 young players in the country. So, but once again, will he be with USA? He might be with USA. And Abhishek Paradkar, USA left arm fast bowler too. So, yeah, that's Abhishek Paradkar coming over from last year. He played for the.
He was from New Zealand, right?
Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Yeah, Abhishek Paradkar. Yeah.
You're talking about the wild card.
Oh no. Yeah. So. Yeah, the East Bay Blazers look like a solid team. What are your thoughts here? What are they missing?
I think the key for them is going to be, can they keep the guys in the park? How many of the USA guys are they going to lose? So it's going to be interesting. That's going to be a big thing for all the teams is, can the team stay fit? Can they sort of keep a bulk of the players together for most of the season? And then obviously once you get to the playoffs, then are those players available? But they've got a strong side, good squad. I think Carmichael is massive for them. If he can stay fit, he's a fast bowler, he swings it, he's going to be a big impact player for them. So I'm expecting a lot more from David White. I think he's finding his feet now. He's an explosive batter up the top. So Sanjay, great young player like you mentioned. So they'll be in contention for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Carmichael. Pretty much the first time I saw him bowl was this in the Houston Challenge, and immediately I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely one of the top 3-4 fastest guys in the country. Yeah. He's a really class player. But yeah, let's see how David Bunn does too if he bounces back from a slightly disappointing season last year. I know he's a good player. He was out of the game for a while. He's a great guy. Let's see how he responds. But yeah, let's move on to the next. It looks like we're camping, doesn't it? Like
it has that feel. We got the nature-y stuff in the background.
And I've always managed to have a sign next to my head. Either side we sit. So maybe it's a warning, But yeah, let's move along to the next team here.
Yeah, so with the Golden State Grizzlies, we talked about the East Bay Blazers maybe losing some guys to international duty. Not so much of an issue for the Golden State Grizzlies. They haven't named their wild card, but their marquees in Hamad Azam and Zia Mohammed Shah. Both of those were great players last year, so in addition to the top players in the league. For your priority domestics, Mohit Nataraj, Sami Aslam, another one of the top players in the league, and Shreyar Khan. So you have a lot of firepower just between those 5 names. Their retained domestics were Shivam Mishra, Abhiram Singh, and Karan Chandal. As your youth players, they're under 21, Aditya Srinivas, Vatsal Vagela, who really turned heads last year with the way he was bowling the left-arm orthodox spinner, got a USA call-up, took wickets against Ireland down in Florida in December, and then Anish Deshpande fills the under-19 slot. And then to round out their domestics, Ruchir Joshi, Malik Junaid, Nihal Desai, Anshul Pratap Singh, those are the guys who rounded out. So this team, again, still looks just as strong as they did last year, and they're not losing anybody besides maybe Vatsal Vagela to international duty.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think they have a team that looks like they can. Their strategy last year was to kind of bat long, and then let Hamad Azam take over in the death batting overs, which is a great strategy when you have Sami Aslam on the team who's willing to kind of sacrifice his run rate to make sure he stays there. And when you're last year at least, when you're playing in Northern California, the runs you're not going to have to score 200 runs to win the game. So you go about a 7 runs per over rate, and then the last 5 overs you just hammer it out. And that seems to be their batting strategy. I don't see why they can't. With this team, I don't see why they can't do that this year. They have Ruchir Joshi, a good young player that they added to the team, and good young fast bowler that they added to the team. So yeah, I think the big question to me is I want to see who they add as a wild card. I'd like to see them add a fast bowler. I mean, can you imagine them with a Carmichael LaRue type of guy, Carmichael LaRue type of guy in that wild card spot? That would really make them, to me, the favorite in the division.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts on this Golden State team?
Yeah, I think same thing for me as I'd love to see the wildcard players. Obviously, some of these teams haven't named them, or most of the teams, and it could be a massive difference still. Experienced team, you've got Ahmad Zia, Sami, a lot of experience there, so they'll be up there, they'll be competing. The way they play cricket, it's a clever side. Yeah, so Vatsal, very exciting. I played against him last year, good bowler. He'll be up there again. He's also not afraid to bowl a little bit slower, try and spin it, which is exciting. So, yeah, Ruchir Joshi, quick bowler. So, yeah, they're going to be a good side.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking earlier about Gadapelli, you said not afraid to flight the ball. Same thing with, as you mentioned there, with Vatsal Vagela. One of the things I like about Vatsal Vagela is he's got that drifting arm ball that he disguises quite well. It looks the same coming at, it's going the same pace as his stock ball when he does a more flighted delivery. So one of them, they look the same. Like in baseball, they call it tunneling, whereas it comes out of the hand. How long can 2 different pitches look the same coming to the batter? Yep. And he does a good job of utilizing that kind of trickery. And in T20, you're going to try to score runs. You can't really play them out. The rest of their bowling is too good to do that. So you got to try to score runs against them, especially when you know Hamad Azam is in the team.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's that's that was a great team last year. They had a great turnout here to watch them in the semifinal. I loved that. Loved watching them, paying attention to them. This is such a tough division. But yeah, I think the Golden State Grizzlies have to be one of the favorites.
Oh, absolutely. And then speaking also of Vachel, he kind of fits that batting mantra that they have: bat long, bat through, and he can do that any place he comes in. But we'll move on to maybe the team that most people are excited for, the defending champions, the Silicon Valley Strikers. And when we talk about the strength of the West, a lot of the strength goes right here with Silicon Valley. Haven't named a wild card. They've named one marquee, that marquee being Chand, who led the team last year when he came in and has just become a superstar here in the United States. Their priority domestics, you have Shehan Jayasuriya, the Sri Lankan, Gary Graham, who, very good player down there, Kulvinder Singh, who became one of the heroes and the icons of minor league, 37 years old, came here and just was bowling some of the best deliveries I had ever seen. And then their domestic, Srinivas Raghavan, comes in for their under-21, Rushil Ugrakar. Their under-19, Dave Tadani, who Nate and I have talked extensively about, a very exciting pace bowler that they have. Kind of didn't really get as many chances later on in the season, but it's someone that
performed when he did.
Exactly, when he was called upon, he did. The other under-19, and Rahul Jariwala, of course, lit it up here at Church Street Park. Tremendous wicketkeeper batsman, and a very young man himself. Scored 100 to get himself onto the USA ODI squad. Unfortunately, that series not being able to be played out.
Right, and he actually led the U.S. men's national championships in runs, the entire tournament in runs. So that goes to show just his class. Actually, we've done great with the young batsmen.
Yeah.
Batsman has always been a weakness. Batting has always been a weakness in the USA team. Having somebody who can stick around a long time. Obviously we have a few studs as it is, but when you've got a guy like Rahul Jariwala who can play a long time and he can score, and he's leading tournaments in runs, and then you turn around and you have the Houston Challenge, and you have Sai Mukamala leading that in runs.
Absolutely.
It's a very exciting time to be a USA cricket fan and to be following cricket here in the USA. So yeah, I'm stoked about that. Yeah,
and two very different styles of batsmen too, which is I think also equally as exciting.
Right. Yeah.
Saurabh Netravalkar, a domestic player that they've kept on this side. A former captain of the United States, good left arm bowler. Narsingh Dinarayan, the guy who basically won them the cup last year.
Yeah.
Had a great half century in the finals last year. Pranay Suri, who came on in good spots for them.
Very good domestic player. Yeah, one of the top ones. Yeah.
Zayed Zakel, who comes in as a domestic, Arsh Bush, and then Adil Shivakumar. So this team didn't seem to lose much of their strength from last year. Lost maybe one big player in Roshan Primus, who was huge for them. But other than that, you're talking about a team that really kept a lot of that strength and still looks to me at least as the top team in the West.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a strong squad again. It'll be interesting to see with their sort of target on their back. They won it last year. Everyone's aware of what they can do. Can they keep it up? It's always difficult to do it twice in 2 years. So, and I think the one thing we haven't mentioned is with a lot of good young players, with the American players and the imports and the international players, those guys can learn a lot. I think that's one of the biggest things is the young players are playing a lot, are getting chances to play alongside and against some really good players. So their development should be fast-tracked, and then hopefully, like we said, they can learn quickly.
Yeah, and I think looking at this team, they have a marquee yet to name and a wild card yet to name. I'd like to see some finishers on this team. I mean, already we have Gary Graham, who has finished for them in the past and won games for them at the end of the game, at the end of their batting innings. We have, of course, Kulvinder Singh, who can do damage with the bat. We saw that.
Yeah.
He can hit the ball a mile. I love watching that guy play, watching him bowl. He was a fan favorite here in Morrisville. He owns a truck driving company. So, and he is a truck himself. So one thing I'd love to see the return of Roshan Primus in that wild card slot. You're not going to, in any cricket league in the world, IPL even, you're not going to find many guys who are like aces at finishing with the bat. You're not going to find a ton of those guys. And the Strikers kind of did that by committee last year. Whereas you have Golden State Grizzlies, relied a lot on Ahmad Azam. The Strikers relied on a lot of their bowling all-rounders to perform that role. And I'd love to see Rashawn Primus. We know he can play. He played great here in the finals weekend.
Yep.
He hit Robin Powell in the head with a bouncer. That's hard to do. I mean, you know, it's but I'd love to see him. I think that was about 89 or 90 miles an hour too, something like that.
Unreal.
So yeah, he's a big, strong guy. He can really clobber the ball. He can rake. Let's say.
The vocab word for the day is rake. Yeah.
Rake. He can rake. So I'd love to see him in the wild card back on this team. I think he puts them over the top in this division, or somebody like him in that role. So that's what I would love to see. Guys, I think we kind of all agree that the Strikers are probably the team to beat in this division. I mean, I feel bad because last year I didn't have them about 2 weeks left in the season. I didn't have them picked to make the playoffs.
Really?
Remember we were talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about
it.
Yeah.
So you were there.
I had them picked. I was like, I didn't think anyone didn't have them picked. You know?
There was it's a three-headed monster out there last year.
It was.
And I think this year it might be a three-headed monster again. But I think maybe we'll see that third head might move from East Bay and into the Seattle team. Based on the stars they have and the depth that they now have.
Yeah.
They have one of the best batters in the country in Andres House, and they have one of the best spinners in the country in Harmeet Singh. So I think they enter the chat. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So Silicon Valley, Golden State, and the Thunders, I think, maybe edge out East Bay a little bit. East Bay is going to suffer from the retirement of Josh Descombe, it looks like to me. So I just want to give him a shout out because he deserves it. But you know, he'll have plenty of things to do anyways. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who's your three-headed monster for this division?
Yeah, and it's so difficult to say, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down. If you look at Silicon last year, Unmuk just started peaking at the right time. He was off to a little bit of a slow start. So if you can have the right players peaking at the right times, I mean, he literally peaked at the perfect time.
He did.
That's going to be very important. I would definitely go. I would put Silicon definitely in there, and then Golden State Grizzlies, and my other one would be. What's Andres Gijs's team?
Seattle Thunderbolts.
Seattle, yeah.
That would be the third team. East Bay, it's going to be. I think Karma is going to play a big role. Like I said, if he's firing, he's going to put them in the running as well.
Yeah. It's going to come down to. In this division, it comes down. Everyone's got to have. You got to have players at every role. You got to have your stars, your marquees. You got to have your wild. You got to have your marquees like Unmuk Chan. You have to have your priority domestic players like Kulvinder Singh firing, and you need to have your domestic players like who else? Srinivas Raghavan, he's a pretty good player.
He played well.
Pranay Suri, you got to have these guys perform for you in this division, and you got to have your youth players, like, for example, San Diego Surf Riders brought a guy over who's international U19 player for Hong Kong, and that is Adit Gorawara. So, yeah, you got to find players in every one of these roles that can produce, and, you know, maybe you got to go to Hong Kong to do it.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's going to be a great season again. I think we're all stoked about it. Let's see, what time is it? It's 9:30. Buffalo Wild Wings is going to be closed when we get out of here, probably. By the time we pack everything up, we're already there. We were there last night. Yeah. But yeah, so guys, everybody who's paid attention and watched tonight, it means a lot to us. We're having a great time, as you can tell. This was really a lot of fun. This was a big undertaking. We appreciate the help from Major League Cricket, Minor League Cricket, from everybody who lent a hand to us in the community. Obviously, I have to mention Bobber, who is producing the show. Bobber, great job. Excellent job, Bobber. Yeah, who not only produced the show, but brought all the equipment out here. Yeah. He is the Josh Descombe of this setup.
He's
right
a mastermind. You know, he gets everything working.
Yeah, he's the Justin Gale of this event. So, but yeah, thank you guys for watching. We're having a great time. We hope you guys had a great time too. We hope that everybody watched us, everybody in the world. But
Hong Kong all the way.
Right, Hong Kong, right. And, you know, shout out to Emerging Cricket. But so, Yeah, once again, thanks a lot, and it was great. So have a great night, guys. We'll look forward to you watching our show this season.